Okay. All right.
Cool.
While we try and figure out which kitchen Gaurav is in and why we can't hear Dom.
No, you can hear me.
Oh, you can hear Dom.
Sure.
All right. Well, I don't understand what's happening, but hi, welcome everybody. It's Friday night on Saving Throw Show, and that ordinarily means it's time for Wildcards. But we just finished a full season, essentially, of our Wildcards interludes, which is what we're here to talk about tonight. So thank you for joining. Oh, no, now Gaurav left and came back.
Gaurav. Oh, great.
On purpose.
Now you're Meghan. Meghan is Jordan.
It was the kitchen that did it. It wasn't me.
Gaurav,
the kitchen's haunted. I swear to God, it wasn't me.
Gaurav's in a haunted kitchen.
What I love about
believe me
is that our captions are not with our faces now.
Okay, so while Dom tries to reposition everybody, let's just jump into this. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jordan Caves-callarman, and I am ordinarily the GM of Wildcards, but I wasn't at all for the past 8 weeks because each one of these fine players here took their turn in the GM seat at the Wildcards table to lead all of the rest of us through an interlude of their choosing.
Choicing.
Everybody choiced some really good things too. I was really impressed by their choices.
We chose a good one.
So let's meet the rest of the crew, and everybody give us your name and tell us what you ran for interludes. And let's start at the top of my screen now, which used to be the bottom of my screen, with JP.
Everybody, my name is Jordan Pridgen, and I played Savage Castlevania, which had a castle, and I teased that there would be vampires, and there weren't. But that's okay.
Spoilers. We'll get to that.
Oh, right. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for Jordan and running a fantastic dark and gothic game of Savage Castlevania. Next up, right below me, we got the man in charge, the one who just rearranged all of our pictures.
Gaurav.
Is it Dom? Oh,
it's
me.
It's supposed to be. No, it's supposed to be Dom. Dom was the one who.
It's me. Hi, my name's.
You're the man in charge.
My name is Dom Zook, and I'll announce what I ran when we hit 81 viewers.
All right.
I see 83.
This could take a little while.
I see everyone in suspense.
I see 80. Say everybody, my name is Dom Zook, and I ran a Indiana Jones hack of Savage Worlds. Some might say
indeed.
Savage Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Pulpy, adventure-y, a little bit Nazi-y. It had it all.
We got to punch Nazis.
We did.
And be punched by Nazis.
I don't think I punched any Nazis. So thank you very much, Dom Zook. Next up, we've got that one lady that I know.
That one lady. Neat.
The one.
Hi, I am that one lady, also known as Meghan Caves. And I ran Mysterium, New Orleans.
Yes.
I need to add that. Yeah.
Spooky, Nola, the Big Easy.
This
Voodoo,
house here.
Everything was present. Ghosts,
Yeah,
terrible secrets behind the walls. Yes, all of it. And then last but not least, the man with the haunted kitchen.
Hi everybody, I'm Gaurav Glade, and I ran Necessary Evil for my Wildcards interlude, which was supers and super fun.
Not just Necessary Evil, but Necessary Evil Breakout. With
That's
all of us
right.
Stuck in the dome of New York City, which was really fun and cool. And thank you again to all of you guys for running those. But really quickly, up top, I just want to say thank you to all of you for watching the interludes and for joining us for them and for unlocking every single clue for the new campaign. You guys are phenomenal. Woo! And thank you. I know we received a couple, 1 or 2 tips already tonight. Thank you so much. But we actually, we do request tonight, you don't, though we appreciate it hugely, you do not have to tip for us tonight. Tomorrow, starting at what time?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. 10 a.m. Pacific time here on twitch.tv/savingthrowshow. We will be running our belated longest day marathon for the Alzheimer's Association to try and end ALZ and benefit the research and the support that the Alzheimer's Association gives to so many families affected by the disease around the country. We will be doing that tomorrow We've got a great slate of games. I know our Saving Throw Social has been blasting out with all of the cool things and the fun guests that will be joining us tomorrow. So since this is a cause that is near and dear to many of our hearts here at Saving Throw, while we very much appreciate you supporting Wildcards, you all have been phenomenally supportive of Wildcards throughout the entire run of our interludes and, in fact, through the run of the show, and we very much appreciate it. But for tonight, we ask that you save your donations for tomorrow, or if you are so inclined, you can go ahead and do we have the donation link for our page available now?
Yep. It's posted in chat.
Okay.
Nice.
You can follow that link in chat if you wanted a tip for us instead. We would like that to go to the Alzheimer's Association for our marathon this weekend. So thank you very much to all of you for that. And also along those lines with the clues that you unlocked, don't worry. Every clue has been unlocked, and the time is now. The time is tonight. At the very end of the show tonight, we will be announcing what our new campaign for Wildcards will be. So make sure that you stick around to the end. But first, lots of questions and us talking and conversing while we drag out this announcement unnecessarily long and make you all wait for it. No, we have all these questions that you all submitted to talk to, but again, before we launch into that, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for taking a turn at the table. Not only was this hugely helpful for me, giving me some space to recharge and kind of just resort myself out, especially in the midst of all this coronavirus stuff that happened for the new campaign. Yeah, I know, right? It might have flown under your radar. It wasn't a huge deal everywhere.
I don't really follow the news.
But seriously, thank you to you guys for each doing that. I had a lot of fun getting to play in each of your games. I learned a lot from being able to sit as a player at each of your tables. And from what I have seen, it sounds like everybody out there enjoyed what you guys brought as well. So thank you for that. I'm going to start these questions off tonight. I had a few questions for you guys, but some of them got snapped up by people who submitted questions. So I'll let them answer them. But I do have a question I have two questions for all of you to get us started up tonight. The first question is this. What was it like GMing your interlude? And if you have GM'd on Saving Throw before, was it different in any way GMing at the Wildcards table? That is my question for you. So just general overview thoughts of what your experience running your interlude was like.
I'll go, because I can only answer half of that. Because I've never run a like planned GM thing except before this. I've done stuff like Everyone is John, where I've like sort of written down like, oh, he starts in a dumpster outside of a fight club. But like I've never like done something where I like knew the plot and I knew that like these things could happen and had scenes set out. So it was really fun. I really liked running it, and I feel like the thing that was interesting about playing with the Wildcards crew that I kind of realized more, especially like going into the end of the first session and session 2, was like, oh, I could just set things up and then be like, now you guys do it. And like let you have conversations with the monsters and work through whatever is going on. I was like, this is I don't need to like have as many constant like stimulations and elements as I like initially thought, which kind of got like overwhelming. My big takeaway was, at least my style is I really overplanned the first time, and I think it kind of got in my way a little bit. Not that the episode was bad, but it was like a little more like it dragged a bit at the beginning, especially. And in the second episode, I didn't not plan it, but like I let my plan be a lot looser, and I was like, oh, this feels a lot better. So.
All right, and I guess since you've already answered this now, and since we're going each of you, I might as well just ask you the second question here as well, JP. So you're on the spot. Everyone else gets a chance to think about their answer. But my second question is, did you discover anything during the experience of GMing your game that you feel like might affect your playing at the table moving forward?
I'm not sure. I mean... It definitely, like, part of me looking at it was like, oh man, if they do something crazy, I have no plan here. And I don't know if that like necessarily makes me be like, oh, I shouldn't do things crazy because there's a chance I have no plan. But it does make me
never the lesson
kind of realize like, maybe everything isn't planned. Maybe sometimes this is just like building the bridge as you're walking across, kind of thing.
Sometimes building it behind you as you're desperately trying not to fall into the abyss.
Right.
All right. Thank you for that, JP. Who wants to go next?
I'll go to next.
Go for it.
All right. Gaurav, so first question, what was it like jamming your interlude? You have GM'd other shows on the channel, so was it different in any way GMing at the Wildcards table? And then did you discover anything during the experience that you think might affect your playing at the table?
So this is my first Savage Worlds GMing experience. I haven't run it before this. And it went really well. All things considered, I think running it for you all was great, and everything worked out sort of, for the most part, how I figured it would. There were a few things that I didn't expect, which were all bonuses, like they were awesome things. And to kind of echo what JP said, like planning for this was easier because I knew I could already trust the players that I've been playing with for so long. So that wasn't, I tend to also overplan all of my stuff to death. I overplan so much, but that makes me feel comfortable once I'm running it, to say that I know exactly what I'm going to do and when I'm going to do it. So having the players not be a factor in my thinking, because like I played with you guys, I can trust you and you'll come up with wild ideas and I can make them work. It's fine. Was really nice. It was really nice,
like
because
shooting Dom out of a laser gun.
Yeah, I definitely didn't. I mean, how could anybody think of that beforehand? It's impossible. But I knew I could not say no, and I'm glad I didn't, because it was such a fantastic outcome to that. So yeah, stuff like that. You know, like the actual like planning of the session, the like the bits and pieces of like the encounters and the characters. Clint Black from Pinnacle helped me with a lot of it. And I'm really thankful for having him help me with that. But overall, it was pretty smooth. I thought I'd have a harder time running a new system, but Savage Worlds makes it pretty easy, honestly. All the work that went into it was mostly all the like backgrounds and music and combats and all. That's the majority of the work, is the Roll20 stuff. I like having a presentation like that. It helps me visually. And I know it helps my players visually, especially with Necessary Evil being such a mechanically heavy setting, where like you guys are starting as supers with all these wild powers. So I wanted to make sure it was simplified enough so that within 2 sessions you understood your characters and your superpowers and could also visually see them happen on a screen. So yeah, what was the second question?
Did you discover anything during the experience that you feel like might affect your playing at the table?
I don't think so.
It's also, yeah, it is totally cool to say no.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Dom or Megan?
I can go. Tell me the first question again, because I can't keep track.
Briefly, what was the overall experience of GMing your interlude like? And you have also GM'd other shows on the channel. I think everyone but JP has run like you were saying, like pre-written types of shows before on the channel. So was it different running it for the Wildcards table?
Yes and no. I run one game for all of you guys before, so I that was kind of the opportunity to see what it was like to have you guys play as opposed to having a different cast. But and also I feel like I've learned a fair amount from my previous games that I've GM'd, because what I was able to take into this game is kind of what JP said, except you didn't know it until you got into it. I knew that you guys would talk. You would talk and you would do all kinds of things. You go all over the place, and I wanted there to be time and space for that. So I really tried to just go, okay, here's a thing and here's a thing. How they get there doesn't matter. It's up to them. They'll get there somehow. Because I wanted you guys to be able to play like that. And I made that mistake with my very first Mysterium episode with a group of people who didn't all know each other. And I was like, great, they'll probably spend about an hour, the first hour, just like talking and getting to know each other. So I'll just leave that space. And they did none of that. My hour was like 15 minutes. And I was like, what do I do? So I know better now. But yeah, I definitely have learned how much knowing your cast can really, or your players can make a huge difference. I think the thing that was most different to me was being in the Wildcards GMC, it's one thing to be like, oh, I'm doing my show, even if it's the same time as Wildcards, but like being here doing Wildcards is more intimidating because it has more of a, I don't know, just kind of a like a standard. Whereas if I go do Mysterium as a mini campaign, I'm like, well, I can take Toasts and I can take that and I can do this. And I could technically do that here too, but it's still Wildcards, you know?
Megan, your Wildcards.
I know, but it's different when you're GMing. It's just different. You've sat in the seat for so long and you have such a like role, the way you do things, the way you have the way you say things at the beginning. It's a lot to keep up with, which isn't a bad thing. It's
you're talking about the specific you, not the general universal you.
No, you.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then the other question was,
did you discover anything that might affect your playing at the table moving forward?
I don't know that I did in this go around, but I definitely have over time GMing just, and I sort of realized this before I GM'd, but I have a tendency to forget the GM is, I feel like they're just relating the information of what's happening in a real world to me, which sounds ridiculous, but I just forget that it's them playing those characters. So it can be really easy to be like, to get mad and be like, well, that's stupid. Why'd that guy do that? Because I don't think Jordan is being stupid. I'm not making a comment on him. I'm talking about the guy I'm interacting with.
Sometimes I am stupid though. So.
Sometimes he's stupid though.
But that is really important distinction to me because I think it can save some difficulty on the GM because the GM has everybody coming at them, you know, and when you do as good of a job as JCC does, you can forget that he's just a person who's like, it's all coming out of his brain. So yeah, I just think that's interesting. And to me, being able to keep that in mind is sort of like keeping the game of play in mind. So we're balancing going back and forth. And I'm not like accidentally, hopefully, shitting on you unintentionally, as I feel like maybe has happened in the past. So that's probably the biggest thing. And also that GMing is hard. It's just hard. It requires a lot of brain power.
Hard.
Yeah, it's
let alone streaming.
I thought, yeah, that's a whole other element, but I thought you guys all did a really great job with it. Dom, take us home, buddy.
I knew also that you all would kind of take the ball and run with it, and I kind of set up situations. I mean, nothing was terribly different from how I'd run the game at conventions in terms of setup and everything. The biggest change was the opening, really. That was not something I had done at conventions before, and I knew that I could.
With the Argo.
Yeah.
I like that bit.
Yeah.
Generally, at conventions, I start. You had just found the Golden Fleece, and then because the train stuff usually takes a long time, and I usually have budgeted the train stuff as an entire session, and so it did work out that way. But also, no one had been captured before by the Nazis.
Okay, so, don't talk too much about that because there is a specific question about what you're referring to.
Okay, but yeah, I knew that I could trust everybody to kind of inhabit the characters, and when I gave you the hindrances and things that I gave you, I knew that you all would sort of play into those things, and even if you weren't super familiar with the characters, you could sort of inhabit that and take it to another level. I knew that the RP was going to be heavy, and so I was excited for that and to see how that played out. And yeah, I mean it is somewhat intimidating, like Megan said, to sort of sit in the chair for Wildcards because we've done this for so long, we've established a rhythm, and then when we switched out and we're doing it, even though I know everything that needs to be announced up top and all of that stuff, usually I don't know the cadence and where things fall in, and then
The
now
muscle
we're starting the game. Yeah, exactly. So that mechanical stuff was always interesting to sort of figure out, but in terms of the play, like, yeah, it was, it's like having, Gaurav said this, like having sort of an ideal table, because we played together so much, we know kind of what people are dealing with and everything. So that was cool. Did I learn anything on how I would play differently? I don't know. I think I realized I could take more risks, I think, because in writing the adventure, I there were some leaps of logic that I kind of hoped that players would sort of pick up on and then take. There were some things, I think a lot of GMs run into this, where they have something that they're like, okay, I'm very loosely, like anytime you put a puzzle or something in a game, I'm just going to very loosely tie something together and hopefully they will click on it and I won't have to give them too many hints or anything like that. And
Tell me about it. Puzzles
Yeah.
can be really hard to
Yeah, they can
make
be.
sure people understand what's going on. Right? Right,
Yeah.
everybody in chat?
yeah, so I had a lot of fail safes for that, but also just in general, like as a player, um I kind of saw like, oh, I would really love it if my players would sort of think outside the box and sort of try something new and different, and just take a different tack to something, because for me, like if we're always doing notice rolls or something like that gets a little samey after a while, and so I want to go like, well, actually, what I want to try to do is I want to try to notice this using survival, or can I use persuade to find, just finding different ways of using the system to play the character more and better, maybe. And that kind of came out in essentially dealing with players, um, not necessarily going the direction I thought that they would go, and
Sure.
and seeing how that could work.
Yeah, I feel you there. I mean, I don't think I've played so many back-to-back characters in quite a while. So it was interesting, like playing through so many of your two shots and then being like, all right, now I'm this character and I gotta
Well,
try and play it this way.
Let's formalize the reverse of this question then. What was it like playing in our games, and what experience did you have that might change how you GM?
Oh man, a lot of things actually. I feel like I learned a lot about GMing from having a seat at each of your tables. It was interesting. I don't want to go too much into it because I feel like there's some questions about that later on. But if I'm wrong and there aren't, let's circle back to that.
We'll table
Because
it.
I also forgot to mention the way this is going to work. We have the pre-submitted questions. There's a few questions for everyone's individual show. The bulk of the questions are general questions for everybody. And then once we get through those, we'll take some live questions from the chat. And then at the end, we'll make an announcement of some kind and whatever. Then we'll all have a nice Friday night. So thank you all for that. Let's jump right in, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We'll go in chronological order. So we'll start off with Savage Indiana Jones, GM'd by Dom Zook. All right, so first question. Evil Dice Monkey asks Dom, what other possible characters do you have for players to play as in this adventure?
Indiana Jones was one.
What? Indiana Jones? One of us
Yep.
could have been Indiana Jones?
Nobody wanted to be Indiana Jones.
one
It
wanted to be
was
Indiana
pretty
Jones.
funny. Like Dom was like, I've got these characters, and he mentioned Indy, and everyone was like, I'll take someone who's not Indy. Like no one wanted Indy.
Indy, and it's interesting. Indy is, and that was totally fine, and I kind of expect that, because Indy is a super difficult character to play, because the character is a Mary Sue, so he can do anything. He's capable of anything, and you cannot boil that down into an RPG. Like, you never can be great at everything in an RPG. And I like Indiana Jones because he's not always perfect about things, but he's always the hero, so he can always, whatever. And
Dude has a lot of bennies.
he's got a lot of bennies. So
Yeah.
it's a hard character to stat out. But I think I did a pretty good job with it. So yeah, Indy and Sophia Hapgood from the Fate of Atlantis series, which I think is a really fun character. There's a lot going on there, but it's also kind of a difficult character to sort of get around, and she doesn't have. There's not really a touchstone for her, so it's hard to sort of grok where she's coming from. But yeah, those are the other two that I
She
had.
was psionic, right?
She was psionic, yes. She was
That
the
would've
only
been
one with powers. Yeah, I briefly considered giving Brody the ability to do something, to be able to like cast a ritual or something like that, but no.
I'm very glad you didn't.
Yeah.
He would get the the pee out of water so he could drink
The
it.
fish,
That would-
yeah, he could get the fish
Yeah.
urine out of water.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
a
those are the
reference
two.
to Last Crusade, Groff.
I just
Just-
thought we were talking about pee now. It's
A
fine.
throwaway line Marcus Brody makes.
No big deal.
Was a follow-up question for you, Dom. Did you, other than Indiana Jones, were the other characters difficult to stat out based on your knowledge of them?
No, not particularly. I mean, as film characters, they have a much wider repertoire, and it's somewhat hard to sort of break those hindrances and stuff and strength down to a seasoned level character. There's a lot I would have given Sala, for instance. Like I would have given him some more persuasion and performance capabilities, and made him brawnier and stuff like that. Short Round was also a little difficult because
Because you hate him so much.
I hate him so much. But also, yeah, he just doesn't. There's not enough. There wasn't a big enough kernel for Short Round to have a whole lot going on. So
What's his
and-
edge? He shouts a lot, I guess.
Yeah. He's the only one with driving. Yeah, I mean, and they all had their difficulties. I think statting out. I love I could do entire shows on statting out characters from movies or comic books or anything like that, because I
You've talked
love
about
those
that
challenges.
a
Yeah.
fair amount in the past, so I believe you.
Yeah. But yeah, there's always like a give or take. There's some compromise there.
Well,
I mean,
it's also like Ghost Hack in the chat mentions, and I think that oh no, not BSB Care says in the chat that it's like Sala's a very different character from the first movie to the third movie, and that's true with like a lot of characters in Indiana Jones and other like movies like that. So
yeah, they all fit. I mean, Brody is
Yeah.
is a professorial, intelligent best friend to Indy, basically, and then in Last Crusade he's a bumbling idiot, and kind of the same thing with Sala. They're and there's a lot to be sort of mined there, and I pull a lot from Raiders over Last Crusade, but Brody's character is way more fleshed out in Last Crusade, so there's a whole lot more to pull from there. So anyway,
Sure. All right. So here's Philly Cheesesteak asks, was there a way to escape or hide in the train without being captured by the Nazis?
Yeah. I think you could have kept moving forward in the train and eventually
You're talking about when the Nazis were like coming up and like searching through
yeah,
the train?
you basically stayed in the dining car and
Yes,
then
we did. Yes,
posted
we did.
up in at the door so they could see you, and everything was, and so as they came, yeah, you could have kept moving, you could have gotten out, or you could have gone on top of the train, you could have gotten off the train in Austria. I had contingencies if you wanted to just depart the train when you saw Nazis getting on. But yeah, there were other things. The way I've run it kind of at conventions was if you made the dramatic task, then you essentially got away from the Nazis after a fashion. So yeah,
Did any of your con groups that you've run this game before, did any of them just give up and get captured because they felt like that was the right thing to do at the plot point that we were at?
Nope.
No?
Mhm.
Interesting. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird, huh?
Yeah. No, they actually they I did have them fight the Nazis at one point, and Sophia used telekinesis to unhook the train, and basically the Nazis went flying back, and they were free of the Nazis. So, but you didn't have Sophia, so
Yeah,
you
we
couldn't
were
do
going to
that.
use our telekinesis, but we just didn't feel like it. So,
been
Marion
too
used
easy.
drink. So
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Super effective.
And then Evil Dice Monkey has an Indiana Jones question for JP. How much Gilbert and Sullivan did you know before playing Sala? Do you have a favorite operetta or song from Gilbert and Sullivan?
Yes. I don't know a ton of Gilbert and Sullivan, but I know all of Pirates of Penzance, and I really love Pirates of Penzance. And I got into it initially because I really love the Modern Major General song, which, you know, is like the really fast, like, I am the very model of a modern major general of information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. And I like that as like almost like a stunt song to be able to do back in high school and stuff. And then I got into like the whole rest of the play, and I really loved it. And like now, like the Popeye the Sailor Man tune is basically the Pirate King from that and stuff. And I don't know. I think it's really good. And I love that Sala sang Pinafore, which I don't really know. So I kind of sang to do more Penzance stuff because, you know, you got to go with what you know.
Go with what you know. I mean, for me, I had no idea what any of it really was, really. So you could have sang whatever and told me it was Gilbert and Sullivan. I'd been like, all right,
You're like, yeah, sure.
that sounds old.
Yeah.
And then Dom,
Yeah.
to cap this out,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what was the most unexpected thing that happened during your game? You went first too, so you have the furthest back to try and remember
Yeah.
for all of this.
Well, the getting captured was one thing, although it started to look like that's kind of where you were going. So that wasn't quite a big thing. And I had stuff for if you got captured. No one had ever done it before, so I hadn't ever run that sort of track.
No one had ever gotten captured?
Huh.
No, not that I recall.
We suck.
No, we're
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
First captures.
Yeah.
The thing with I think Marion at the end wanting to walk into the water, and I forget exactly what was behind that. So there was a whole thing there where it took a while to kind of get you all to sort of get, and that was sort of a problem on my end, but initially you were supposed to realize we need the scabbard, ask for the scabbard from the lady in the lake and get the scabbard. Then Arthur would have gone straight for the person with the scabbard and could not hurt them. So you would find out that you can't be hurt by the scabbard. Now JP put that together because he knows his history or his mythology, but or it could be history. Who knows? I've read my Geoffrey of Monmouth, but
we've all read our Geoffrey of Monmouth,
right?
And
anyway,
the Faulkner translation.
oh, of course. But I've read Sir Thomas Malory. It's okay in the original French, but
I don't know who these people are.
They write stories about men with swords in England.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who these people are, Gaurav. Don't believe these guys.
But yeah, there was a weird like thing where people just kept fighting Arthur, and in con games I usually wipe out all of the Nazis. I don't leave any Nazis standing, so you're just pitted against what's his name, the bad guy, Stogger.
All I can Stogger.
Stogger.
Literally,
So
all I can think of is Balak.
Yeah. So you're pitted against Stogger and Arthur. And but I left Nazis for you because we had some time and I thought it would work out. Well, the Nazis took up a lot of time to kill, and I wasn't expecting that. I thought they would go down much faster, and yeah, so I was not expecting the Nazis to add that much to it. And then at the end, I think we were all loopy and things were kind of going crazy. I'm like, no, just give Arthur the scabbard. So yeah.
We were like, no, I'm pretty sure that doesn't feel like what we need to do.
Yeah.
Nope. Dom's eventually like, just do it. And we're like, I see where you're going here, but
yeah. Because you say it, I'm not going to do it.
it's a trick.
All right. And what was everybody's favorite non-Dom favorite moment from Indiana Jones as players? Not from the movies, from the game you played. And I'll start because I'm the one asking all the questions. So I'll give you guys time to figure out your answer. I think that I actually really liked I know we weren't supposed to get captured, but I really liked that interaction on the train because it just felt so Indiana Jones. Like Nazis were all over the train. It was like, we can't get off. They know we're here. They know who we are. And you played Stager. Like he had such that like great Indiana Jones villain vibe of being like, I hold all the cards here. I guess you can do what you want. But and so us getting captured, like that moment, like on the train, just to me felt the most like being in an Indiana Jones game. I was like, oh no, and it's Nazis too. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I really loved I love the intro. I really loved like starting in the midst of like succeeding at another big adventure with the Argonauts and stuff. And it just like immediately was like, okay, I know the mood we're in. We're in like action, fun, crazy mode. And I don't know. I just thought it was a really great way to start things. And I love Greek myths, so like finding the Golden Fleece was like very much something I was like, ooh.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I liked just I felt like one thing you did really well that I think can be really hard to do for games is you got it felt like being in an Indiana Jones movie or like watching a movie. It felt the organization of it, how things moved, what happened. That was cool. That was just a lot of fun. And it was also a lot of fun to just be crazy all over the place, Marion, in like battle and stuff. I feel like there were a lot of moments where we all together kind of like did some crazy shit and it worked. And we were like, yay, we did it.
Yeah.
It was always fun.
My favorite part was near the end of the second episode where we were in that it wasn't a lighthouse, it was like a tower, but it started flooding and we had this like sort of short escape sequence which felt super Indiana Jonesy, and we got like a table, we flipped it over, we were all like using it as a raft to try to get out.
God,
that was so cool
about that. That was cool.
That was super Indiana Jonesy. I really like that part.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
I
it's interesting, like the flooding of Glastonbury tour it's a huge leap of faith, right? It's like you're going to have to fill a massive amount of planes that are around Glastonbury to possibly get this. England would have to be submerged, but you guys were trying to work out like how to get out of there, and it's interesting because it's like a quick encounter, but you kind of want to do more with it. You know, it's like I wanted to have more action there, but really it's just like, just tell me what you're doing. And you were like, I'm okay, I want to go back and I want to help them, but I also want to do this and stuff. And that was kind of fun to get that all sort of wrapped around.
Yeah. All right. Final thoughts on Indiana Jones? Anyone? Going once?
Oh, okay.
Twice?
Us or Dom?
Anybody.
Or Chad.
Thanks for...
Not Chad.
Not Chad. Okay.
Thanks for playing in the game.
I have a thought, but also sort of a question for Dom. If you were going to do another Indiana Jones, what mythical thing would you do for your next adventure?
I don't know. I would probably do something...
I'm actually going to have to ask you to hold that answer because there's another question from chat that's very similar later on. But now that you've had to think about it, just put it on the slate in your brain.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. So thank you to Dom for running Savage Indiana Jones. That one was, you had the unenviable position of going first and sort of starting off the interludes. And I feel like we started it off with a very action-packed game. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Let us jump into the villainous superheroics of Necessary Evil Breakout. There are a few more questions about Necessary Evil Breakout. Some of them are for the lulz, Gaurav, and some of them are like people individually submitted two halves of like the same question. So let's jump into this.
Okay.
Vampire 54 wants to know, Gaurav, when are you going to run a season or 8 of this? You know you want to. Give JCC a break. But seriously, I love seeing the cast tackle the super style. Hope to see more of it in the future. So when are you going to run a season or 8 of this?
Or 8 of this. So making a streamed RPG is a lot of work. And I, like I said before, I overplan everything. And the 2-month period I had to plan this game, actually I had like 10 weeks to plan this game, was very stressful for me. I was up most nights pretty late working on the Roll20 stuff and just typing up my document for my outline and everything. It's very stressful, and I already have a few more projects coming up. That being said, I would, if I had to run a Savage Worlds game long term, if I wanted to do that, this would easily be my #1 choice of what I would run. Like I fell in love with this setting, learning about it and running it. Like easy choice. I would definitely do this if I was going to.
It's such a cool setting. If any of you who watched that one were interested at all in the world or anything like that, I highly recommend picking up a copy of both the original Necessary Evil and Necessary Evil Breakout. It's just a really fun world, and Pinnacle did a really good job with it, I feel like.
Yes.
I think our group was pretty fun too, just like the being like mid-level. They've had a comic book about them, but never all that long running kind of one.
Yeah, this is like volume 3 of their series.
Yeah, exactly.
We only ever get like 6 issues before it's like, sales aren't really doing it. Let's go ahead and cancel that one.
Let's try a new artist, new writer.
Second question for you, Gaurav. Philly Cheesesteak wants to know, what was your favorite thing about the system? So I don't know if Philly Cheesesteak meant like necessary. I'm going to say the setting is probably what they were referring to, since Savage Worlds is the system. And we've all talked a lot about Savage Worlds. But what was your favorite thing about Necessary Evil, the setting?
I'll sort of combine those two thoughts. So like mechanically and narratively, like the power system that does exist in Savage Worlds, and I did get a preview of the new upcoming Suede Superpowers Compendium that is updated for Suede, which is fantastic. Literally lets you design any sort of superhero you can imagine, and that is really not cool. That is not a joke. You literally could do that. So much so that obviously, you know, when I asked you guys at the start of the first episode, like, hey, you had a 5th member. I didn't tell you about this until just now. Make him up on the spot. I had a week to literally create this character. Because I knew I could in this system. I had that much trust in it. I was like, whatever they say, I can create in the system. So I will just let them go with it. And you guys didn't pick anything too crazy, but
we should have gone way weirder on that.
If you did, it totally would have been possible. So that I think the versatility of this system, and also the narrative versatility, in that if you could think of any superhero adjacent of like, does a Spider-Man type exist? Yeah, Shadow Scorpion is sort of a Spider-Man type of hero. Any type of those could exist and probably do in this world. So I really like the versatility of this system.
Yeah, it's I do feel like Savage, that was the first time I've played Savage Supers. I've read a lot about it, but I hadn't played it yet, and it does play as well as I thought it would. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of on those lines, Obocop has a question for everybody. If you ever imagined or pretended to have a superpower as a kid, what power was it?
I mean, web slinging.
Telekinesis.
Easy.
Web slinging was yours?
I did that all the time as a kid.
Okay. Telekinesis?
I always wanted to like be able to be like and make stuff move and do all that kind of thing. Me and like one of my friends in elementary school like spent a couple recesses being like, all right, just in case it's like a training thing, we're gonna spend these recesses trying to make these sticks move.
One day, man.
I don't know that I had one in mind as a kid, but in college, I did play a game of Champions in which we played as ourselves in college, but we were also superheroes. And I always
Nice.
thought it'd be really cool to be a molecular manipulator, because you can essentially do anything if you go far enough down that path. So I was like, I got it all. So I had a character named Phase, who was a molecular manipulator.
Molecular
Cool.
manipulation, a comic writer's dream and nightmare all
Yeah.
rolled up into one.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
one of those villains that they introduce in like the 60s and then forget about, and then they bring him back in the 2000s with like a slight twist that makes him a super big villain for some reason.
Yeah.
You never had a superpower that you wanted as a kid, Megan? Like as a kid, you were like, I'm
guess I
fine the
didn't-
way I am.
What about like talking to cats or something? That's a superpower.
I was gonna say
I didn't think about it as a superpower, but
you
yeah,
did it anyway.
there were definitely things that I wanted to like be able to fly, or I mean, I told everybody I was part cat. Anyway, what I really wanted was a tail, if you can consider that a.
That's
That is
a
a power.
superpower.
I will
Yeah.
consider that an like
It's
low-level
still-
X-Men superpower.
I
Or
still
like
think it'd
what-
be cool to have a tail. I mean, come on, think about all the cool things you could do with the
My
tail.
Hero
And your
Academia
balance.
has a hero that power is just tail.
Their power is tail.
Straight up.
Yep.
Really hard to use a normal toilet like that, though. Gotta say, you'd
Very
probably
true.
have to get something special built.
You got to get a tail it.
Dom?
Pretty good.
I mean, I had more like collections. Like I would love to fly, but also like, I mean, Superman. I would just go with Superman's powers, but without emitting radioactivity because of his
Just
X-rays and all of
everything.
that. Yeah, I mean, super strength would be great. I loved Colossus and Nightcrawler and Wolverine in
Yeah.
like early 80s X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, and like I had a character I played in Heroes Unlimited, which is a Palladium game, and I had a Colossus type character for that. Nightcrawler's just awesome, and Wolverine having a healing factor. But then when you're Superman, you don't get hurt, so it's like, why not just be
Unless it's magic,
impervious?
or there's a red sun,
Yeah,
or there's
that's true.
kryptonite.
And there's kryptonite everywhere,
True.
apparently.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. But yeah, that was those, and Spider-Man was obviously was always huge for me. But I think that just tied into the flying thing. Web slinging was just a sort of a form of flying. But yeah.
I just wanted a Green Lantern ring, like
Yeah.
big time. Like I just wanted a Green Lantern ring. I would do so many awesome things with a Green Lantern ring, and I wouldn't help anybody. I would just have a whole lot of fun. Maybe make a big bounce house or something. I don't know. But that's what I always wanted as a kid.
Yeah, they BSB Care wants us to try Alpha Flight, just to hear our attempted Canadian accents, and so I'll be Sasquatch, and
I'll be Puck.
yeah,
Those are the only two members of Alpha Flight I know. So
Wolverine, technically, maybe.
I don't know what Alpha Flight is, but I'm sorry because I'm good at dialects.
Sorry.
There's
Just watch
Snowbird
Degrassi Junior High.
and Shaman. Is that
Talisman.
No one can refute you.
Talisman.
So sure, yes.
These all
Snowbird
sound
and
Canadian.
Talisman and like the guy who's like a Yeti?
That's
That was
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch, right? And
But no, there's
Oh.
there.
and Snowbird has a brother who when they touch it makes like a
No.
flash of light.
No,
that's Hawk
that's
and Dove,
different.
or the Wonder Twins.
No, that's Aurora. That's Aurora and North Star.
Aurora and North Star, right?
Yeah.
But weren't they part of Alpha Flight?
I think at some point, yes. Sorry, I have like the first like 10 issues of Alpha Flight.
I'm pretty sure
Nice.
we've been part of Alpha Flight at some point. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean Alpha Flight, not when they were their own thing, when they showed up as villains in the X-Men. Because that was like, I think, their origin.
Oh, obviously, yeah. We knew that's what you meant when they showed up as villains. X-Men, I don't know anything about Alpha Flight. Moving on from Alpha Flight, Mike Squire 2020 asks, was making JCC's character have Scorpion in the name an incognito slight at the Scorpion NPC JCC spent so much time making and Hal Melton killed with basically one punch? Because that's cold.
No. So Clint designed the characters and I assigned the characters. So not possible. No.
We'll have to ask Clint that question, Mike Squire 2020.
But he didn't give it to you. I assigned him to you, so.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. So it's both of your faults. Also, Mike Squire's going to have a real hard time running for president.
Yeah. No spoilers.
So this is a two-part question from Evil Dice Monkey. So I'm going to ask you both parts.
Okay.
Garav, when
Hello.
you came up with the idea that everyone knew Shadow Scorpion's secret, were you sitting at home laughing your head off at the potential situations the players could be in? And then, other Jordan, which is me in this instance, when did you realize that everyone knew your secret?
So, the funny story about this is, so the characters were designed by Clint, like I said, and his idea originally was that Shadow Scorpion was the clone, yada yada yada, and that one person, it was actually going to be Screech, Meghan's character, that knew it, and they were also in like sort of a relationship, was sort of mentioned in the first iteration of this. But then I decided, like, what if like they all know, but like he doesn't know that they all know, but he knows one of them knows. So that's basically what I told everybody. It's like, hey, Jordan Pridgen, your character knows that this is not the real Shadow Scorpion, but nobody else knows that. I told them all that. And I told JCC that one of the other characters knows because he came home from a patrol one time, and his box was open and his costume was there, so somebody saw it. But then also JCC told me after this that Meghan had actually told him.
So this is when I answer the question here.
Yeah, go for it.
I actually didn't realize that everyone knew my secret until after the game. Even though we had that big moment at the end of the second one where everyone was like, yeah, basically, I didn't realize that's what's happening because Garav told me that I knew one person on the team knew my secret. And Meghan, not realizing she wasn't supposed to reveal that information to me, like just accidentally let it slip that, oh yeah, she knew who I really was. And I was like, oh, damn it.
No.
Now I know which one of you knows.
So you go, yeah, my character has a secret. And I was like, oh, I think I know your secret.
Yeah, that's what it was. And I was like, oh man, it's Screech.
I didn't put together that, and then you got sad. I was like, oh no, did I ruin it?
So
it's
whole
like
time,
when you tell Meghan that you're going to ice Jordan at a party.
That's an example of it.
The whole time I was playing, like Meghan and I we were like, okay, so we know that, we about this with each other. So I was like, this will be fun. I'll just play that up with Meghan's character. So because I was so focused on that, and because I knew that only one other person at the table knew my secret, I completely missed all of the other signs that everyone else knew who I was.
Oh, I dropped some heavy hints too.
Yeah. But then even at the end, when I was like, I'm actually Silver Scorpion, both you and Dom were like, yeah, we know. Didn't everybody know? And I was like, oh, look they're really leaning into playing that bit. That's really fun. Like, I had no idea that everyone actually already knew until I think someone mentioned it in Discord, and I was like, wait. Like this was days later.
It
also,
really
welcome
worked
Raiders.
out. It really worked out really well, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
It really
Raiders.
Unraveled really well. Well, hello, Raiders.
We're talking about
Yeah,
the
hello.
Wildcards interludes that we just ran, where each of the players ran a two-shot game, and then at the end we'll be announcing what our new campaign is. But we've got a few questions to get through from that, so join us.
Thank you, Rule of Lore. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
That was really fun. I did enjoy that, and I liked it partially because I was like, so this is what that feels like, because I do that kind of shit to you guys all the time.
Yeah.
But I completely did not see that coming, and I thought it was a lot of fun. And then Quirky Forever would like to know, when is Mana Dorks coming back?
When is Mana Dorks coming back?
I don't know.
Undetermined.
Is that Tyler? Did Tyler ask that question?
It's hard to know. The only name I
Highly-
was given was Quirky Forever.
Highly doubt it, just because Tyler wasn't part of Mana Dorks. But I guess he
Seems like
could
something
have.
he would ask though.
He could have been. He could
wonder
have
if
been
it was
a
Shimmickson.
Manadork.
Oh yeah, it could have. Yeah, there were other people when we did. I don't know who it was, but whoever it was, undetermined at this point.
It could be the only other non-Tyler, non-Garav person who owns a Quirky Boys shirt.
Yeah.
Eric has one too now, so
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh,
Could have been
okay.
Eric. It
there
could have been
are
Eric.
And
1/3
Eric
of dozens
was
of
a
us.
Manadork for an
Also
episode.
true.
Yeah.
Also true.
So he has the motive. Okay, and then Garav, what through, other than Dom's character being shot out of a plasma rifle, what was the biggest loop that you got thrown running this game?
Um, biggest loop. I don't know, because like I said, I overplan so much of this that I had like things that in case you did this, this was going to happen. There wasn't much that you guys varied out of other than that laser moment, because you literally skipped an entire combat encounter doing that, which was crazy and great. I loved it. There was, I guess, the in the first episode when you were heading for the location, and I said, "Hey, there's a toy store here," and you guys like, "We'll check it on the way back," and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess."
It was like, this seems like a higher priority.
Yeah, we were like, this is time contingent, so we gotta go there. Toy Store will be here.
That makes total sense, but it did throw me for a loop, because I was like, wait, is that fine? It's probably fine. This is fine. It's fine. It's nothing. Nothing changes if I do this.
Yeah, it played out fine, but that's one of my favorite, my favorite and least favorite things with GMing is when you set up a situation like that and your players are like, but it doesn't make any sense for us to do that right now, so let's go do this, and you're like, oh shit, it doesn't make sense for them to do that now.
Yeah, definitely. And that was also one of my buffer pieces. I build a buffer piece into every game I run that is an additional thing in case I need to add time to a show. So I do that for every stream game, and that's just because, timing wise, like we said, we love role playing, but sometimes we just don't, and we get to it and we're like, oh, we need some more time. So that was one of those pieces that I added in because we needed more time. And
this is Wildcards.
I cannot think of a single instance that I have gone like, oh, I need more content to fill this time. That is not a problem I often run into. For everyone else, what was everyone's favorite experience or favorite moment playing in Necessary Evil Breakout with Gaurav at the helm?
I mean, I loved the characters that we had, and the situation that was set up, and the interplay within that was just a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun.
Definitely.
Playing that character and harassing Shadow Scorpion and just being a shit to everybody else.
Yeah.
It's really fun. I always feel like it can be difficult playing a bad guy, because you can lean too heavy into that and it just can be mean, I suppose. But it's really the way this is set up, that you are a bad guy that has to be a good guy, is so great, because you have automatically built into this system this inner turmoil of like, I have to save the day, but also, okay, I have to save the day, all the heroes are gone. It's just, I just think that's cool, and I think that you built it all out really well, Gaurav, in a way that allowed us to feel like we were there.
That was mostly you guys. You guys enveloped those characters so well that it felt like a real group that did live together. Like, you guys did that. It was amazing.
Well, I mean, I think that you did a really great job, though. Like you said, you spent a lot of time on the ambiance of everything, and I think you did a really, really good job of building all of that, from the voice modulator to the maps that you used, and the layouts, and everything that you had for dramatic tasks, and all of that stuff was great. And you rolled with the punches when we had those things. When I had the crit fail and ran into the RV and stuff, was like,
oh yeah, that was such a fun moment. I like that.
That stuff was great. And I think that was a lot of fun.
I mean, my single favorite moment in the whole thing was after you had led me to that champion doll that was the best present, and we were going to stay in the city, when I was like, okay, this is a weird favor, and I had to ask him to give my son the champion doll, and your response was just like, are you fucking kidding me?
You're handing this villain a doll of his nemesis and saying, please give this to my child? He's like, what the fuck? So good.
Lex Luthor, can you give this Superman action figure to my kid? He just loves Superman so much.
But also the scene, I thought this was really fun, and I think part of this is exactly what Megan was saying, that we had a really fun interplay that was built in the whole thing. But in the toy store scene, when it's a dad and his little girl who want this toy, if I was playing any other character, I would have been like, a little girl is sad and wants the toy, but I'm like, you know what? I'm a villain, and I'm trying to be a good guy for this world. But if I want a toy, I get that toy, right?
Yes. Yeah. That was actually an unexpected moment that I did not expect you to trade your food away for this doll.
Only half of it.
You only have whatever. I know.
I tried. I tried to stop it.
I know.
I wanted a little powers child instead.
Yeah, she did. She did have a power which she was going to use in case things got hairy, but they did not. So
if we decided to fight a child.
For me, it was really fun getting to play the Supers game because like I felt powerful. Like when we got into combats, it was like, oh yeah, like we wreck. We're awesome. But for me, I think my favorite moments were not knowing that everyone knew my secret. I kept trying to do like all these like little character bits to like lean into the like I'm secretly good, and the whole time I'm like, man, they probably have no idea why I'm doing this. When they look back, they'll be like, oh, that's why he did that. And everyone at the table was like, we get it. You're
oh, you're so moody.
Yeah.
And so I was like, they'll never know.
So good.
That was fun. Final thoughts on Necessary Evil Breakout before we move on?
It's
Anybody?
Fun.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun.
It was good.
Yeah,
It's a good time. Yeah, I would love to see these characters again.
I learned a lot about Roll20 from playing in your game too.
Yeah,
like, I mean,
I did too.
I bet, but like you talked about how much work you put into it, and I know that was rough, but it definitely showed up in like since we're not used to playing virtually like this. I think all of that time and like which sounds like it would drive me insane, but kudos to you for doing it because it really kind of helped like me buy into the game doing it virtually like this, and I thought that was really cool.
See, it's funny because since I was following it up, like all the cool Roll20 stuff he was doing, I was just like, oh no.
I'm sorry.
And on that note, let's talk about Savage Castlevania. All right, so as we have established already, this was JP's first time running not just Savage Worlds, but also a adventure that he had crafted ahead of time instead of improvising on the spot. And we'll start with a question from Evil Dice Monkey here. Other Jordan. So I guess this question was submitted chronologically after he called me Other Jordan. So you're other Jordan now. Sure. I don't know who the original Jordan is. They've been lost to time. Wow. Yeah. Dracula is such a staple in the Castlevania series, but you decided to go with a different villain. Why? Were you inspired by something to use your own take on the series, or did you start with the vampire house and look for a property you could easily use it in? Kudos on the idea, by the way.
So I have kind of it was a bit of a mix. So I watched Castlevania a while back, the like Netflix show, and I just watching it, I was like, this would be such a cool like RPG campaign. This just feels like a powerful, cool, high-level RPG campaign. And I really kind of wanted to do that. And then there was a magic card that is called like Handwire the Writhing Township or something like that, and is an entire town that has like become part of this giant demon. And I love the image of that. So I thought that would like be a neat thing that would fit into like a Castlevania style horror setting. And so those two things, I kind of had the beginning of wanting to do Castlevania and the end of wanting to do like a giant possessed building. And I kind of like worked towards the middle with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. That was a reveal that I found surprising, because like the whole thing was set up like, oh, clearly this guy had been visited by Dracula at some point in the recent past, so like something vampire-y going on here, and then it was like, nope.
Well, and I wanted to. I mean, I knew it was Castlevania, so I knew everyone's first expectation would be vampires. And actually, I had like almost a panic moment where I was like, people are gonna hate me. My villain's not a vampire in a Castlevania game. What have I done? What have I done? But I think it worked out, and Clint also, like, because Clint helped me a lot too on helping building the characters and stuff, and I kind of had my like plot planned out. But one of the things he pointed out is he's like, well, just like fake hard on the vampire thing, like throw lots of things that like could be vampire stuff at it. And then I found out, like in doing some of my real research, that Dracula, like the actual historical Dracula, had connections to the castle that I set mine in, and the town, and the time period. And even the castle that I used for this, like Corvin Castle, which is a real castle, is like, a lot of people think it is the inspiration for Dracula's castle in the original Bram Stoker novel. Ooh. So I thought it like made sense to have like the influence of Dracula around it and having influence the people involved, but I don't know. I didn't want it to just be like you get to the castle and you fight a vampire. Like I wanted to have something kind of different happen.
You're like, we've already done like 16 Castlevania games that are about that. So what if we did something different?
Yeah.
Cool. Philly Cheesesteak wants to know, would it have been harder for the party to get to the Black Heart if the Lord couldn't hold his demon back?
Absolutely. Yes. That like social conflict they had was like, they actually didn't get the best case scenario, which would have made things like much clearer. He would have told you basically where the portrait was and like how to take it down before like fighting the other ones. Instead, all he could, like the demon kept control over his mind. And then if he hadn't done any of that, God, I'm forgetting her name, but JCC's girlfriend's character and all of them would have been like absorbed into the walls, and you would have had like no clues going forward, except that you would follow the like tendons and veins. And then if the way I was going to try and get you guys to realize what was going on is that I dropped hints in Dom's backstory that I gave him about how to like beat the final boss, like about like how demon summoning works, things that like keep them kept in the, just a little bit of it. But I was gonna like, if it needed to, I would like have Dom realize that because his character had done demon summoning stuff to like try and work through it, and it would have been a lot harder. Like
Dom's character was the Donatello of our group. Nikolai does demons.
Yes, he does demons.
Nikolai.
Sorry,
Nikolai.
Nikolai. And then I'm not entirely sure if this question is just directed at JP or if it's directed at all of us. So if anyone else has an answer, feel free to jump in. This one comes from Evil Dice Monkey. Castlevania is famed for its chicken in a wall. I was going to ask, what food would you eat from a wall? But I think the answer will be nothing. So instead, what is your worst food experience? And is it one of the things you ate in a previous fireside chat?
Hold up. To be clear, I would eat pizza from a wall. I would eat fried chicken from a wall.
So
Yeah,
800-year-old stone wall. You break it down, and there is
if it
just
like looks in good condition,
a pizza.
Yeah.
It's not
If it
hot.
smells good,
It's
if
not
it smells
hot.
good though,
definitely.
it's pizza. It's pizza.
Wall pizza, man.
Oh, man. Well, I would just say one of my worst food experiences was, and I know that this is something that like I guess a lot of people like, but I had crickets on a taco once, and it was like, oh, this is like something very popular in South America. I bet it'll be great. If it's in food, I'm sure it won't feel like I'm just chewing on a bug. It did very much feel like I was chewing on a bug to me, and I was just like the whole time like, oh my god, there are bugs in my mouth. Oh, I'm chewing on bugs.
I really still want to try crickets, even after
Definitely
that
do it.
story. Even after
Definitely
that
do it.
story, I still want to try it. But now I'm more nervous.
No, you gotta try it.
You gotta try it.
Gotta try some crickets.
Gotta try it.
Anyone else? Wall
yeah.
food or worst food experience?
Yeah, I'll say that. I mean, specifically the worst is the skunk jelly bean from
God.
Oh my God, it is a nightmare. But that's not. I mean, it is a food experience. But
Wait,
not
sorry.
really, but
Was that one of the
Bean boozled.
the bean boozled beans?
Yeah.
Fuck those things.
They are not food.
the
I do not
worst.
count those as food.
yeah. So my other one was in high school. Between my junior and senior year, I did this thing where we did homestays in England and a few other places in the British Isles. And in the English one, it was me and two other girls staying with this very, very lovely old couple. And they were so funny because they would like cook these, I assume, very English foods every night, and they would set the table and we would sit down and they would like go somewhere else, like they had already eaten, it was our turn to eat or something, and we hated all of the food but we felt awful. So basically, like, we would go, okay, if you drink my juice, I'll eat that. Like, we would just trade things. And then whenever we weren't there, whenever we were out doing stuff with a group that we had gone with, we would just buy food everywhere because we were so hungry. So, it was neat. It was neat. I was very hungry on that trip.
Mine is Bean Boozled related. Megan and I went on a trip with my family and some friends of theirs, and my all of their kids. It was like a big family thing. And we, from a shop, we bought like a giant box of Bean Boozled beans that came with like a spinner. So it was a game. You would like spin the wheel and have to eat the bean. And we did that in a circle until we finished the entire box. And I got so many bad beans.
That's where I had
almost
skunk.
vomited probably three times during that game because I was like, oh god, the skunk was bad. Sweaty socks was the one that kept getting me like.
Oh my god!
I didn't know that.
The rotten fish one was like the first one I ever had, and I was like, these aren't fun. This isn't Birdie Bots.
And then there's the straight up vomit one, which just makes you feel like you've already thrown up.
I hate those.
So much fun. So much fun. Highly recommend.
No.
Dom, chicken in a wall, worst food experience?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do chicken in a wall. But
all right, your loss.
I don't know. I don't know that I've necessarily had I'm sure I've had terrible food
Dom
experiences.
has loved every item of food he has ever put in his mouth.
No, but I've had disappointing food experiences where I will go somewhere and or order something and I'm like, oh man, I cannot wait for this burger to get here. And it gets there and it's like
meh.
Not great. You can tell that it's like a Costco burger and I had this literally like just last week. I ordered burgers and I was super excited, ordered fries and stuff like that. And I was like, this is going to be great. I can't wait. This place has come highly recommended to me. And it gets there. Everything was cold. The fries were hard. The burger was really meh. The lettuce looked like it had been out for a long time and stuff like that. And
bamboozle burgers.
Yeah. And it's like, it was okay. Like it wouldn't taste awful. I didn't feel like I needed to throw up or anything like that, but it was really disappointing. And I've
when
had
a burger's been in a wall for that long, Dom, it kind of loses a little bit of its charm.
Yeah.
I should randomly also add that I did drink a spider once, so that
wasn't that bad.
But it didn't rank. It didn't rank though. It wasn't as bad as some of the
I had
other
a can of Dr. Pepper that I'd sat down somewhere when I was in like first grade, and I went to drink it, and I was like, because there was a spider in there, and it was horrifying, and I hate spiders. Anyway.
All right, JP, what threw you for the biggest loop? What were you not expecting? What threw you off or made you feel like you were scrambling, if anything, when running your game?
I feel like there were a couple things, but the biggest one was that I thought I was like, I thought that I was like pretty projecty about it. You had to kill the like find the portrait and destroy it before you'd be able to kill the demon. And you guys went a long time without trying to like find the portrait. And I was like, I'm just gonna tell him at some point.
Yeah, that is
such a hard thing to gauge.
I have been in that position many a time.
So yeah, I think I made that a lot less clear than I meant to. This is like an odd one, but this I should have seen coming, and then I kind of rolled with it. But I didn't imagine the social conflict to be between you guys and the demon. I imagined it being between you guys and like Lord Hanyadi and like trying to raise his spirits up. But when I like came in and I had the demon character there, I realized immediately, I was like, it makes way more sense for them to be like, you know, you guys just went right into like debating with the demon and like trying to pull his influence out of everybody. And that's like a small thing to be thrown for a loop, I guess. But for me, it was very much like, oh, the tone of what I thought this like conversation is about has changed dramatically.
Sure.
And there were a bunch of other like small things, but yeah, I railroaded you guys a bit for sure. Like at the very beginning, there was one moment where JCC was like, I guess let's go to the castle. And I was like, no, you wouldn't go to the castle. You would go to the church. And then as you were leaving the church, I was like, I should have let him go to the castle.
But then we wouldn't have gotten to kill that guy.
That's true.
what was everybody's favorite moment, a standout moment, or anything like that sticks with you from playing in Savage Castlevania, GM'd by Jordan Pridgen?
I think the story in and of itself was, I think Gaurav or somebody said this already, but it was just very surprising, not in like in a good way, in a like, it felt very, this kind of sounds like a pun, but fleshed out in the sense of like, oh, this is an interesting world that, and you don't tend to think that, oh, we're in a living castle. That's just not like, you know, your standard thing.
I saw it coming.
Cool.
Saw it coming.
You would, of course.
My favorite thing actually didn't happen, but I was really hoping it would happen because my character had all these holy abilities that he didn't know about. Because it just never had cause to use them at all. And I knew that Gaurav was playing a demon, and I knew that just touching me at all did like pretty crazy damage to supernaturally evil creatures. So I was just waiting for like some moment where Gaurav was like he punches you playfully on the shoulder, like puts his arm around you, and I was gonna be like 3d6 holy damage, AP2.
I'll admit, I also like wanted that to happen very specifically.
No, I was like, oh, it's gotta happen at some point, but it just never did. It just never did. We were too much of an odd couple, I think, to really interact in that way, Gaurav.
Definitely. Playing a demon was interesting. I really liked the relationship between my character and Dom's character, in that at the outset, it seemed very much that I was sort of enslaved to him and didn't want to be there. But as you sort of learned about the relationship, you saw that he sort of respected the hold that he had on this demon, so much so that he would fight another demon instead of giving in to some sort of dark deal. And I really enjoyed the back and forth between Nikolai and Viraz. I really liked that dynamic.
I liked that moment when Dom, you had that whole speech about like he's my friend now at this point. And then Gaurav, you were like, oh, I don't know about that.
I had different ideas, I think, but no, that interaction I think was one of the high points for me, and I loved the berserk armor, basically turning Nikolai into a tank. I thought was really fun, and Nikolai. And I wanted there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to do because Nikolai had some relatively powerful spells and stuff.
You
and
had so many powerful spells.
Yeah. And without PowerPoints to really deal with, like I was all like, I'm going to go ham and I am going to go full on Avatar state and start wrecking shit. And
I was really glad you did, because that's like how I wanted that character to like play. I wanted you to be like, when I want to use magic, I do magic shit.
Yeah, exactly. I loved it. I loved when like the church, they were trying to light the church on fire, and I'm just all like, okay, sure, you want to play with fire, let's play with fire, you know. And it's just all like, here's a fireball, and then they leave, and it's just all like, okay,
this will save
gone.
the church.
Yeah, you can pray now, it's okay. But yeah, I enjoyed the characters a lot. I thought there was a lot of fun moments to play in with that, and I liked the sort of reveals about the Lucretia and everything, and the family, and kind of how that played into the whole system. But I want to know where Simon was. No, everyone talks about Trevor. No one talks about Simon.
Wasn't he in the flashback sequence? Wasn't he a little kid?
No,
Trevor. Simon is way in the future. Simon's generations later.
So he's in the future, Dom. Mystery solved.
So the next major Belmont in the Belmont line after Trevor is Christopher Belmont, and I think he's like the great grandfather of Simon or something like that.
Chris to his friends.
Yeah.
All right. Final thoughts on Savage Castlevania. I mean, we'll be talking about your games more when we get to the everybody questions, but
sure.
Any parting thoughts? Going once? Going twice? Sold! Let's move on to our final interlude, which was Mysterium, and I'm calling it Mysterium New Orleans because I feel like all your previous Mysterium games have had subtitles.
They have, indeed.
And also, I'm calling it that. That was the title you told me to refer to it by, so that is why I called it that.
I thought of it as Wildcards Interludes Mysterium, but Yeah,
That's a
Mysterium.
mouthful.
Wildcards,
New
Interludes,
Orleans.
Mysterium, New Orleans. A
Or, you know.
Mysterium adventure, parentheses.
Yeah.
Or you could just do Mysterium and the entire name of the house. Gardet Le Pret.
No, that's hard to say. And I tried to say at one point in the game, and I immediately regretted it, and then just stopped.
Lapreter.
Yeah, there you go. Preter.
So Megan,
Yes.
we'll start off with a question from RD Armand. It was really interesting to see that the Mysterium setting didn't have any traditional combat per se. Was this intentional and planned, or did it just work out that way?
Oh,
If intentional, I'd be interested to hear how you approach that kind of game.
So intentional. Yes and no. So I specifically originally picked Mysterium because I love like ghost stories. Is that if I could spend my entire life watching only horror movies that are ghost story, haunted story movies, I would, because I just love them. They're my favorite.
Can confirm.
Anyway, it's my favorite
This is
kind
truth
of story.
about Megan.
Yeah. So, and I love Mysterium, and it was just like, oh man, this is great. I can do that. But it in and of itself isn't, I mean, they're psychics. They're not really set up to fight. Now, that doesn't mean you couldn't do it that way. You certainly could. But also, for me, keeping mechanics and organizing all of that in my head is something I have not gotten to that I feel comfortable enough to want to do it on my own yet. So also, I don't always, I like the having room for the RP and kind of looking at it in a different way, like finding other ways to still create that tension without necessarily having to have combat. Having said that, were I to do a longer, like a season run of Mysterium or something like that, I would probably start adding combat in, because not that you couldn't do it without it, but it just, I don't know, it feels like at some point you just need some of it in there, because there's so many mechanics. I mean, just like if you look at ETU, we had combat a lot, but none of us were really like adept at combat. So that's the kind of stuff that I would have. And I think I maybe have, I do think I have actually done some combat in Mysterium before, but it was like that. It was very limited.
We had some in the last Mysterium, right? If we didn't have combat, we had some like very combat-like situations.
Yeah, there were dramatic tasks for sure. I love those. Those and quick encounters honestly are great. That's what I really leaned into this go, were the quick encounters, because I feel like they allow for more creative thinking, or maybe almost require it. They can also be limiting, so you kind of have to like set spots that feel like give the players enough things to think about, or trust your players that they can do that, which I trust these guys that they can. So yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question, but I think for me, what I'll say is that what I always have a really hard time with in games is figuring out what the gameplay is. I'm like, okay, I created a story. How do you play it? I just have a really hard time tying those things together. And I had a very hard time with it here too. And I'm still figuring it out. So that's sort of the way I approach it. I approach it from a story that I want to tell, and then figure out how you can create that as a world and how people can play within it. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. That's just how I've figured it out so far. So
I thought that aspect was really interesting. Like for all of your games, like it was clear, like every one of the interludes had a completely different like feel and flavor and tone and like design concept from each of the others. And it was interesting seeing like what starting points each of you like came from when building your thing, which I think we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, it just sounds like you start with story and then you build out from that. I start
with story and tone. I find a kernel of something that sparks interest, and then I build up around it, and then I guess I always end up doing mysteries, which are difficult. So I'm always like, wait, that doesn't make sense. How do I, and I feel like I'm going, how do I get this to make sense? That's what I feel like I spend a lot of time doing for my games.
Kind of along those lines, another thing you started with that I know because I live with you. Philly Cheesesteak wants to know, what sort of research did you have to do in creating the sessions with these real historical, terrifying, and cool people?
For me, I love history, and I already knew about Delphine LaLaurie because I've been to New Orleans multiple times, and I think pretty much every time we've gone on a ghost tour, and it is the major house. You always go by the LaLaurie house. They always talk about it. And I remember being like, excuse me, what? It's just so crazy. And I was, we had a couple of months to think about what we wanted to do. And I was just sitting there, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Where do I want to go? Do I want to do something different? What can it be? And then I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to do New Orleans and to do the LaLaurie house, but I can't do that because Jordan was also on those ghost tours and he'll know. So I kind of pulled up, I love I go, okay, I've got my 1924-ish time period. I have the basics of these psychics going to investigate or help do something. Now I have my town. Okay, now let's see what's happening around that time. So I usually go and just look for various different things. And the way I came upon the Sultan's Palace was I was trying to find a house to use as the house for this. And I found that one with that story. And I was like, great, I can do that. And then Jordan won't know that we're dealing with LaLaurie. So that's kind of how it always goes for me. I'll like look up ghost stories, or if I want to go to a particular place, I'll look up that place and look for all kinds of stories and information. And then I love pulling that and like squishing it together. Like for me, it's sort of like putting Easter eggs in like a Marvel movie. I'm like, ooh, there's a history Easter egg. Did you catch it? I don't know why.
Did you catch that? BSB care.
But yeah, that's like, I feel like I've achieved something by taking all these things and like putting them together and creating my own story with it. Yeah, I kind of forgot what the question was that I was answering, so I hope I answered it.
It was just about research, and yeah,
yes.
I think you answered it.
Real quick, I want to say welcome everyone from Hunters Entertainment that just rated.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, we are talking about all of the interludes that the players just ran, a bunch of two-shot games in the world of their choosing for this previous season, and then at the end of this tonight, we're going to be announcing what our new campaign for our Wildcards Savage Worlds show will be. So thank you for joining us.
And BSB Care, I have played both of those games. I saw Mass Effect and Dragon Age, so thank you.
All right.
Just your history Easter egg thing, kind of like, because I had some of the same experiences, and partially because like in your Mysterium games you always like picked actual real things. I was like, I should find a real place for mine to take place. And like the one thing that I was like, all right, there's no story reason for this, but I want to put it in, was like the weird inscription on the well in the courtyard, which was just like, you have water but you have no soul, or something like that. Which is just like something I found out was actually on the well in the middle of that castle's courtyard.
It's from that Killers song, right?
Also that.
Gunslinger Andy would like to know, Megan, should there ever be a full-length Mysterium campaign, are there any particular stories or locations that you feel would be great inspiration and provide enough material for something more lengthy?
You know what I really like to do is discover something new. Because I feel like I have a tendency to go, I can only think of this one thing. So in that instance, I love to find things that are well known, but it's so much more fun to discover something that may be well known in another country, but not as much here, or at least I don't know. Something that I can kind of dive into that can take me, like, in general, they're always sort of investigating a haunting. And I kind of get stuck there, but I don't want it to feel like the same thing on repeat. So trying not to go too overboard on that and feel like I have to turn it upside down each time, just kind of adding different dynamics is usually what I would do. So I would probably try to find something like Estes Park, the Overlook, Shining Hotel type thing, where there's, more breadth of stuff that could be going on there. And I would probably just make it a bigger overarching thing. Also though, New Orleans, like, you could spend years of seasons of stuff. There's so much richness in that area, but really when you start looking into it, there's richness everywhere. You could do a whole thing on the battlefields of like Civil War, or go over to Europe and like find battlefields in the World Wars, like all kinds of things where you could just do, I don't know.
Lots of battlefield related games.
All battle. It would all be battle.
All
Battlefields.
battlefields. You
Battle
could go. You
wars,
could
all
even.
wars.
Oh man, you could even go to China on some of those battlefields. Mysterium battlefields. All right, Megan. What, if anything, was the biggest challenge or the loop that you got thrown for, or the unexpected thing that happened in your game?
The hardest thing with you guys is getting you guys to an ending. The first night,
I have no idea what you mean by that.
the first session, I kind of had like marker points of like, okay, whenever they get to this general time, then it'll trigger this thing or whatever. And I was waiting for you guys to go to bed, and I figured you'd be like, okay, we'll go to bed now, and that's where I was going to end. And you were like, okay, now we're going to go and investigate the room. And I'm like, okay.
I love when Gaurav was like, I want to interview all 30 people that work here.
I was like, okay, we can. But this go, I really, much like both JP and Gaurav have talked about the over preparing, I definitely don't do it like they do. But when I initially started, you do have that feeling of, I've got to plan out every single contingency. Because if they go a different direction, or you have the first episode of Mysterium I ever did where they didn't spend that hour talking that I thought they were going to, and now I have to move into my second episode material to make this as long as I need it to be. I didn't want to get into that position ever again. So there's that feeling of needing to like plan it all. But having run as many con games as I have now, which is only like 5 or 6, but still just having that experience, I don't work like that. I can't plan. It stresses me out too much to plan like that. It freaks me out. It freaks me out not to, but it's easier for me not to in the long run. So what I really try to do is give myself enough things that I know I can jump off of if I need to. And then just trust my players, my table, and trust that I can meet them where I need to. And I do that by not throwing too much stuff at myself, like combat. It's not that I couldn't figure it out. I certainly could, but I would rather build upon it so I can get comfortable with one aspect and explore what I enjoy, as opposed to going, I have to do all these things because that's just what you do. I'm just trying to kind of approach it from a different perspective. So that's, I feel like I went off on a tangent, but yeah, so that was kind of a like, okay, here we go. But at the same time, it made for a really fun moment. And hopefully they still felt like they got some, continuing information through that, which is can be the hard part. And then the other thing that I think, like I was saying, having a really hard time figuring out how to make it into gameplay. Because, you go into, I know railroading has a bad rap, but I think the different railroading is not bad. It's controlling being bad, controlling your players and everything they do. So what I always try to do is go, okay, here are the things that they need to find, and I'm going to let them do it however they want. I want them to use their skills. I want them to use whatever they want to use, go wherever they want to go, and they can get that information. Is that the right way to do it? I don't know. That's what I've figured out so far. But one thing I will say, and I think I've had this problem a few times, is I don't always do a good job of making it seem like the players / characters were the ones who saved the day. And in this particular instance, it's like I didn't think about it until the end. But basically what I should have had them do, and spoilers, of course, if you haven't seen it, but I should have had...
If you haven't seen it, why are you watching this? Like, what are you doing here?
At the very end, I should have had it be that the 4 of them had to do something to call this spirit to be able to dispatch Lalaurie. And I sort of had that in my mind, that their presence and all that stuff was the reason that it gave her the power to manifest as much as she did. But they didn't know that. They didn't necessarily know that them being there just did it. And that isn't very active. So I think in hindsight, it was like, well, duh, that would be a really easy switch, but I have a hard time thinking like that. So that was another thing that I think I was really excited about this one, and I'm really proud of this story. But I do think in regards to not making it feel like they're just kind of along for the ride. I don't know that I've figured that one out yet. Sometimes I'm better at it than other times. But
when you're doing a narrative-heavy game or like a mystery narrative-heavy game, it can sometimes be hard when you're like, oh, I want it to be like really complex and intricate, and then you're like, oh, whoops, I forgot to leave any space for other people to be in this story. It's difficult sometimes. But I had fun with the game. I was gonna ask everyone what their favorite moment is, but I'm gonna start with this one because my favorite moment was related to what you were talking about all the stuff we were doing after you expected us to just end the session by going to sleep. The most fun moment I had was when Mesmero and I did our little buddy comedy mishap thing of me trying to sneak into Lady McCarthy's room while Mesmero distracted her, and that whole thing just felt like such a comedy of errors.
Well, I enjoyed being able to play with that too, because you kept failing and I was like, oh great, I know exactly what she'll do. It was fun because I felt like through that, while it was completely unplanned in a lot of ways, we were all playing together, I was still giving you hopefully information by giving you lack of information essentially. So
sure, yeah, but that was I enjoyed getting to play the weirdness of that scene out with you and Dom. So that was what stands out for me as a moment that was a lot of fun.
Go ahead, Dom.
I really, first of all, welcome Mercs of Mischief. Thank you for the raid.
Oh, hi.
Really appreciate it.
Oh, hi,
Nice seeing you all.
Tonight.
Yeah, I hope, hey, give us a follow if you don't already follow our channel. We'd love to see you back here.
Yeah, most of the time we play games, we're not
we
just
actually
talking
play
about
games,
the
yeah.
games that we played.
Yeah. In fact, tomorrow we're going to be playing games for about 15 hours. So,
raising money for the Alzheimer's Association.
Raising money for Alzheimer's. So, anyway, I think my favorite moment was being everyone getting like chained or tied up in the attic. Everyone escaping and then going like, but Mesmero is gonna do this. This is Mesmero's thing. And I'm all like, yeah, it's not my turn yet, so I'm just gonna wait. And then
stand here.
And then finally get out and but I'm so happy that I actually succeeded on that roll, because I'm like, if I hadn't, this would have been like, this entire character was built to be able to get out of chains and locks and everything like that. And I didn't even use, I'm like, I'm not even going to try and use my telekinesis or anything like that, because that's just
hard, yeah.
No. So yeah, then I liked the like confrontation, like, you just tried to chain the greatest escape artist in the world?
And
What
just
is
his
your
feet.
problem?
And
Yeah,
just
and
his
just his
feet.
feet.
Just his feet.
That was that whole when we were like going up into the attic and it was like clearly a trap room, and she was like, go up into this weird attic, and we were like, no. But like eventually with when I was playing my character, I was like, yeah, I feel like I'd be like, sure, we'll go into this clearly trapped because we're with the greatest escape artist in the world. Like, so what the worst thing that happens is we get locked in there and he gets us out. No big deal.
Yeah.
And see, I didn't even think about that. It completely went out of my head. And I was like, okay, we're up there. And I was like, I'll give them like specific things so they kind of know what to work with. And then everybody kept saying that. I was like, oh yeah, that actually works perfectly.
Mesmero, he's our man. If he can't do it, no one can.
Okay.
I was thinking of her as being so arrogant that she could get away with whatever at that point, that she didn't think there was any way she could fail. So
Yeah,
she would
I
make
loved it.
huge oversights like that.
I love that though, because one of Mesmero's hindrances was arrogance. So when he came up against someone who thought she was better than Mesmero, it was just like that. Everything came to roost. It was all like, oh no, you can't, no.
I think my favorite moment was kind of in that like situation too. I really liked when she was like monologuing, like, haha, I explain all the stuff, that I realized I was like, I can counter this blowhard by blowing harder. Like, I'll just have Horace like try and out-talk her and like draw her attention and annoy her until Mesmero escapes.
Yeah. You distracted her long enough for everybody else to be like, and we're free.
No one blows harder than Horace Duncombe.
Yes.
My favorite moment was at the end of the first episode where this was after your sneaking into a room escapades and that specter that visited us.
Mhm.
And I don't know why, like, I know this was Mysterium and there was going to be like spooky shit, but you know, that first session was all like, is this real? Sure, there was books falling on us and like we did some ghost stuff, but like, is it real? And then you just had this ghost show up in my goddamn bed. And I like broke character when you actually did that, because I like literally screamed like, oh fuck, because I was not expecting it. You go back and watch, I totally break character. I'm like, oh shit, I should not have done that. My character would not do this.
That's awesome.
But so I think you really nailed the atmosphere of it all. And I think a big key to that was you did a lot of work on having music accent the moments.
You like scored your whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sound
that
is
was really
one of-
well done. Yeah.
One of the most, like, I love, that's one of my favorite parts is I'm like, okay, now what music should we have here? And Roll20, while a little not super user friendly in that regard, once you get it all set up, is amazing for the gameplay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad, because that's my favorite thing to do.
Your hard work paid off there.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Final thoughts on Mysterium for the time being? Mysterium or Wildcards Interludes : Mysterium : New Orleans parentheses a Mysterium adventurer. Nope. All right. Let's move on. All right. So we've got about 15 questions left, and I feel like we're actually on pretty good pace to get through this. So great job, everybody. Look at us. We might actually end at a reasonable hour.
Oh,
Don't jinx it.
Why?
No, it's fine. I've never said that before.
I'm gonna get another beer. I'll be super quick back.
Okay. So we're going to go into the questions for the group, but this first one I'm going to take, because we get variations on this question, or questions like this a fair amount, and I just wanted to take a moment to address it. So, do you think you'll ever have shows without the interruptions? The toasts and rerolls just eat up so much time and make them so long. I tried to watch live and it was unbearable. Had to wait for YouTube so I could skip them. Don't get me wrong, I love the show, but it's a bit ridiculous when an hour of the show is nothing but toasts and reroll callouts. Thanks, Kyle. So, Kyle, I totally hear you, and I can understand that. That's something that we are always thinking about behind the scenes. As Wildcards has gone on, we've tried more and more to find ways to sort of like contain that stuff and keep it from interrupting the flow of the game as much. However, as time has gone on and on, our show has grown. Our awesome community has grown. We've had more people showing up each week to tune in, which is amazing, and we love it. And as a result of that, the interaction with the show has grown as well. So another problem with that is we've been trying to scale that back, make sure that it still feels interactive and all of that. And I get it, but we are on Twitch. JP left his sound on.
Oh no, he's watching on his phone.
I'm not going to be able to talk when I can hear myself talking from a while
Turn
ago.
your phone off.
Turn your phone on. Go, Fist.
Part of that is the platform that we are on. We are an RPG show that streams on Twitch, and a primary focus of Twitch, one of the things that Twitch is good for, is interactivity with a live show that is going on. So as we move forward, we are still looking at ways, again, to sort of minimize the interruptions. More than likely moving forward, we will only be doing toasts at the beginning of the show, when we come back from break, and at the end of the show. That's one thing we're going to do to try and keep them a bit more contained. Rerolls, though, those have to be given out during the show, because they can affect things that are happening at the table at that moment. In fact, that's kind of the point of them. And while I do hear from a lot of people who watch the show or who know the show that they find the interruptions distracting or they don't like them that much, I also hear from a lot of people that they enjoy that aspect of the show, and then it's that kind of social aspect. It's kind of like going to a live concert or listening to that same concert later as a recording. Like Queen live at Wembley Stadium, one of their greatest like performances, supposedly. this whole moment, or maybe it was Live Aid. Maybe he did it in both. Freddie Mercury does this sort of like song thing back and forth with the audience. And listening to it on a CD, you're like, all right, cool. Freddie Mercury goes like, "Ayo," and then like 6,000 people all go like, "Ayo," and you're like, great. But being there, it was a totally different experience. Doesn't always translate the same when you weren't there.
Like a Bare Naked Ladies concert. They'll just like tell stories in between songs, and it's like, yeah, this is part of it.
There you go.
Yeah, Bare Naked Ladies, just like Queen. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. We're a live show on Twitch, and that is part of it. And we don't expect everyone to like what we do. I mean, obviously we want everyone to like what we do, but if it's not for everybody, that's totally fine. One of our things on Saving Throw in general is interactivity with the chat, and we don't want it to be like you're just looking through a window at all of us playing a game. We want you to feel like you're here and sort of experiencing it with us, and that's one of the things that we do. However, if that is not for you, we totally understand. I hear Sounds Like Crows is a really good podcast, Savage Worlds play. I think the Hussman has a couple of his own actual play podcasts with Savage Worlds. Those are really great people running really cool games, kind of along the lines of the kind of stuff we do on Wildcards with less interruptions. So if it's too much for you, I highly recommend checking out some of them. They're very cool as well. We're always trying to minimize the experience, but it's just part of what we do. So
also, like DJ Regular said, if any of you know any independently wealthy TTRPG fans that want to throw an exorbitant amount of money,
that is the other thing. This is
gotta get our Nigerian princes, man.
How we keep doing this is by having those interactive elements. So
somebody finds out that Bill Gates plays a lot of Savage Worlds, and it's like, wait,
Bill Gates.
If you don't like interruptions on Wildcards and you are also independently wealthy and would like to invest a cool $1 million in the Saving Throw operation, I promise you right here and now we will stop doing interruptions on Wildcards, but probably not really.
Yeah. There's one great way to stop interruptions on these shows, and I will say really quick, I do appreciate you all, the people who have tipped this show.
Yes, thank you.
We very much encourage. We will read out the toasts that have come in, but I do encourage you to please, if you want to donate tonight, we are raising money tomorrow for the Alzheimer's Association. So please think about steering the money that way. ! ALZ in chat will pull up the list or pull up the donation page. It's Megan's page, and just donate there. And it goes to a great cause, and we're trying to hit a lot of money this year. We're trying to beat our goal from last year, so it would really mean a lot to us if you do that, or just show up tomorrow and watch the show and share it with your friends. That's always great too. So
gaming for a good cause, it's one of the things we like to do when we can. So thank you all. Okay, back to the questions about the interludes themselves. Simi David 95 asks, what was the biggest challenge you faced when creating your interlude, and how did you overcome that challenge? So that's for all of our GMs.
I think I kind of already said mine, but just to reiterate, figuring out how to make it a game is always the hardest part for me.
How do you make a story a game?
Yeah, and I don't know that I'm getting there. One day I'll get there fully, but I'm getting there.
Me too.
I'll say for me, I mean, a lot of this was the challenge, but the biggest thing that I really wanted was that like high-powered, cool, like we're all experienced adventurers tone, and I didn't know if I felt comfortable just like making all the characters legendary or something like that. And the way I overcame the problem, which this was like, I mean, this is like a sort of obvious thing, but it was a big thing for me, is like asking for help. Like I just was like, I want this to be like this, and I reached out to Clint.
Turns out Clint Black knows a lot about Savage Worlds.
Yeah. It turns out he's really good at this stuff.
Right?
And he just had ideas like right off the bat. He was like, okay, what if we use it in like the super system a bit? And I was like, oh, yes, oh my God, perfect. It would be like, because like he suggested, like I kind of wanted to have no PowerPoints and stuff. I wanted people to just have things they could do. And he was like, well, that's like the thing that you should use then, supers. And he had all these ideas and these cool extra abilities everyone could have. And having someone else who like knew the thing that I was struggling with to like have all this input and stuff was just like hugely helpful. And it was like at the beginning when I started, I was like, it's like inconveniencing people so much to like ask them for help. But like, especially when it's things people are like interested and passionate about, people like helping and like having input and stuff. So that was a big way to.
Turns out gamers like talking about games.
Yeah.
We're pretty into it.
I think the hardest thing for me was just, I mean, I had already done this for convention goers, so I kind of knew. That's why I went first. Really, was I was like, I know this. I just ran this at Genghis Khan and stuff, and I have things put together, all except for that sort of cold open. I had sort of pieced together, but one of the hardest things was sort of taking what I learned at conventions and applying it to how I felt it was going to run here, and then keep that feeling, because my whole point was to do a very pulpy adventure and keep it running like a cinematic experience. I really wanted that feeling of being in an Indiana Jones film. So yeah, I think it was just sort of keeping that going and being cognizant of what was happening while I was running things was, really kind of, there were so many things, and I let loose like tons of, like, I told you that the soldiers were Nazis, and I shouldn't have. Like, my whole thing was, you didn't really know if they were Nazis or not. They could have been at around the camp that they were all dressed as British soldiers, and so
some
I wanted you to feel like
gentlemen wearing red armbands.
Yes. I wanted you to feel safe,
Okay.
but I was all like, but you guys kind of guessed it, and I started saying Nazis and stuff, and you were all like, yeah, okay. And then so I like missed out on a big part of how I intended that to go. But
just call them baddies. That's easy.
Yeah,
Just,
they're
what
the
you just call them
baddies.
baddies.
That's why they have the skull on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of keeping things all in your head as to what you want, and everything is extremely difficult. And
Yeah.
The toughest challenge for me was scaling encounters. So this was my first time running Savage Worlds, and looking basically what I was going to do is look in the book, in the back of the book of Necessary World Breakout. There's a index of just a bunch of monsters you can put in your game, and that's what I did. The bad part about that, at least in the book that I was looking at, is that I'm used to doing it in D&D, where they have like challenge ratings. In there isn't so much a challenge rating, so it's very difficult for me to gauge the power level without reading the entire thing. And then even then, I'm like, is this too powerful or is this too weak? And so I just kind of have to wing it. And I did get a little input from Clint on that, but it was tougher because like the last encounter I gave you guys was a little too easy, and also escaping the rats was a little too easy. And I wish I had made it a little harder, but it's just something you learn from experience from playing these systems. And I was new to it, so I knew that was going to be a challenge, and it was. So next time I know to go much harder on you guys.
Well, also the other thing that's hard to keep in mind as a thing, thank you. That's hard to keep in mind as a GM is like you always want to be like, I wanted that to be more challenging. I wanted this to be harder. But you forget sometimes it's just super fun as a player to be like, we just kicked the shit out of that. That was nothing. We're so awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's fun.
It is, especially in a super setting. I think it worked out really well.
I felt a little bad in my game, Gaurav, when you were like, yeah, I just did 90 damage to this heart. It's dead. And I was like, I mean, it's shaken, I guess.
I was like, what? No.
All right. We've kind of addressed this, but I think maybe we didn't fully do it. Batman is Cool 100 wants to know, were these games written by yourselves, or did you use pre-made games? And if so, where did you get the games from? And unless I'm mistaken, I think the only one who used a pre-made setting was Gaurav, because Necessary Evil Breakout is a pinnacle setting.
Yep.
Everyone else's settings and games were wholly original. I mean, Megan, this is based on a board game. Yes.
A very fun board game.
A very fun board game.
You should play it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot of fun. It's an app now too.
But I have it on Steam. Yeah.
Gaurav, was your adventure, or was your game based on like the plot points of Breakout?
Parts of it were, yeah. There in Breakout, when you start, you do live in that little lair at the top of a building.
The Frightful Fours lair, yes.
Yes, the Frightful Fours lair. That is a real building that you live in, and a lot of the stuff built around that was real. The neutron robot encounter is also in the book. It's not as fleshed out as it was in my game, but it is in the book. Like the actual stat block is there as well. But yeah, most of that, thinking about it now, it's funny because my setting was the one that has like a module, but it wasn't like you all used popular IPs in your settings, if that makes sense. So the expectations for people who have played or seen these things was much higher than people who have done Necessary Evil, because then they can base it off superhero stuff they do, but not specifically this. So I kind of had the edge in that sense that I could still surprise people. But you guys also did surprises in your game, so it's not totally out of the question.
There's actually a question about that later on too.
Well, sorry.
But yeah, so I think Batman is cool. Everybody made the adventures themselves and made them their own. Even Gaurav, using some of the pre-written material from Necessary Evil Breakout, changed it, customized it, expanded parts of it. I think, and yeah, both totally valid. Check out Necessary Evil, and also watch the Indiana Jones movies, play some Castlevania games, and check out Mysterium. Dork Lord Canada wants to know, well, first opens with a statement. You all did an excellent job in the GM chair, and I'm inclined to agree with Dork Lord Canada.
Thank you.
Are there any games you would like to run longer term, and what would they be?
Mysterium.
That was easy for Megan.
But I like doing it in bursts here and there. It's fun to be like, and now we come back and see where our psychics have been for the last however long.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier, obviously, I would love to do Necessary Evil. If I was going to do another long form campaign, I would do that.
I would do an Avatar: The Last Airbender.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I swear to God,
Yes.
I was just about to say, if I had to run a long-term one, it was going to be Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Sorry, one
yeah,
of you has
Dom.
to do Korra now.
Yeah.
You both do Avatar. Someone has to do Korra, and someone can do Avatar. And I expect rules for that sport, that bending sport they played that I can't remember the name of right now.
Pro bending?
Yeah, pro bending.
Pro bending.
Bending.
I should have just guessed. That was not that hard to figure out. Awesome. All right. Yeah, I think obviously Necessary Evil would work, and Mysterium we've seen, but Avatar is one that I firmly
so
believe
many.
Savage Worlds could do a great job with.
I think we've said this a billion times already, probably, but pretty much any movie or TV show Jordan and I watch, we're like, that'd be a great Savage World setting.
That guy's just an extra. Oh, that guy's a wild card.
All the time. We describe it all in Savage Worlds. It's crazy.
This is true.
New show from Saving Throw.
We watch movies and talk about it in terms of Savage Worlds. Evil Dice Monkey wants to know, did any of you have alternate settings or ideas that were just too complicated to pull off in the short amount of time you had to organize?
Yeah.
And Evil Dice Monkey did not ask you to explain your answer, so everyone only has to say yes or no.
Great.
Yes.
Yep. No.
I almost did an idea I've been thinking about for a while, which is Deadlands Noir, kind of based around the plot of The Untouchables, like a group of taxmen, basically, like FBI accountants, but who also, have the training and everything else, who are like trying to take down Al Capone, who is actually like detailed in the Deadlands Noir companion, which is like what made it interesting. And like Elliot Ness is a character that's detailed in the Deadlands Noir companion. And I saw that and I was like, it would be awesome to like actually like kind of have a more action-packed sort of Untouchables plot in, and see how things are different in the Deadlands world. So I was going to do that, and I kind of, I don't know, it didn't seem like it just didn't win out.
The world's not ready for the Untouchables and Deadlands Noir yet, JP.
Nope. Still some things I'm not sure how to do in it, so.
Yeah.
What about Gaurav or Dom? Any alternate settings or ideas that you didn't have time to pull off?
I had one too. I have more than
No.
Megan, you have more than
I have more than
It's not required by the wording of the question, but I guess if you want to, you can.
Yeah, go for it, Megan. Yeah, go for it.
Mostly what happens to me, this has happened most times I've put a game together, I get all these different pieces. I'm like, this piece is great. I want to use this. I want to use that. And then I'm like, oh no, they don't all fit together. Okay, I'm gonna have to discard some. So it's less like a particular encounter or something like that, and it's more like elements. Because the one thing that I had a really hard time with is I was like, I'm in New Orleans and I haven't done a lot with voodoo. What is wrong with me? So that is one thing that I did some research on voodoo, and when I have been to New Orleans in the past, I did do a voodoo tour, and we got to go to like a voodoo priestess told us all these crazy things. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, so I'm absolutely fascinated by that. But I was like, but this isn't a voodoo story. Like, we can touch it a little bit, but it isn't. And so I'm just going to have to do it another time. But there's always something like that where I'm like, oh, this really cool thing I have in my head, I'm just not going to be able to do. I have to let it go. So that's usually, I have little pieces like that are sad, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I had originally actually planned to do, I was thinking about doing either Rippers was my earliest idea when we talked about doing Interludes. And then I actually started doing real research into doing 50 Fathoms or Pirates of the Spanish Main, I think is the other one.
How dare you?
Yeah, I was like, we joked about it long enough. What if it's good? And then I started looking into it, and I was like,
I hear it's great.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I found a lot of resources, but we had talked about doing supers before, like Jordan and Dom had both mentioned it. And I was like, you know what? I kind of want to dive into this just because it's the thing that I'm interested the most about. And I wanted to use a setting in Savage Worlds because it's my first time running it. So I wanted to pick a pre-existing one. And I'm glad I did. I love Necessary Evil. So, but yeah, those are my other options that I had bouncing around.
Yeah. I actually also was considering a pirate ship one. I had a plot about like getting lost at sea and like half the crew resorting to cannibalism kind of thing.
Yeah. You also mentioned JP doing Savage Magic the Gathering.
Yes. Yeah. I thought about, like taking, because, we've done Broken Pact.
Right.
So, you can like use those settings, and I thought it'd be cool to potentially set it there.
Yeah.
Savage Worlds did it.
You could do pretty much anything.
And Dom, your answer was no?
Correct.
Dope.
Indiana or bust.
I didn't have time to think of another thing. Anyway.
That's true.
Yeah,
you did kind of come right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Enter the Rectangle asks, did the players get any input on their characters, narratively or statistically, or were they all 100% designed and assigned by their respective GMs?
It differed from game to game.
Yeah. So let's see. Dom offered us up the suite of Indiana Jones characters that he had already built for his con scenario for us to choose between, and we all chose there. Gaurav, like we've talked about, Clint made those supers, but then you assigned them to us, so we had no input on the characters for Gaurav's game.
Mm-hmm.
JP also created the characters and then assigned them to us.
Yeah.
And then
I sort of had you guys, I mean, Horus obviously was already created, but for everyone else, I asked them what kind of character they wanted to play and if they wanted to make it or they wanted me to. And so I did, with actually the help of Jordan, because we like building Savage Worlds characters. It's fun.
You should come over sometime. We can watch a movie and call out all the people who are extras at Wildcards, and then afterwards we can build characters.
Ooh.
You guys are so married. Ew.
Yeah.
We but like narratively, none of the GMs really told us how to play our characters.
I think
really.
I did.
Well, you gave us some like things about their person. You didn't give us that much about their person.
I meant mechanically. Sorry, I meant mechanically. Like,
yeah.
Because they were very complicated. So I was like, this is your kind of power set, and here's two villains and superheroes that they kind of work like, so you have an idea in your head. But not role playing wise. Yes.
I think part of it was we kind of trusted everyone to sort of build the character that would inhabit that, and we didn't. I don't know. I mean, I think Mysterium was the only one that I think I felt that I sort of instilled what that character was going to be from the get-go. But being handed the other characters, like I I immediately understood them and was I was able to build my own thing out of them. So I never felt like I didn't get the opportunity to make kind of what I wanted. It was a fun experiment of just being like, handed a script basically and being told to improv whatever that character is. So
Sometimes I like that more because sometimes I'm trying to create my own. I get stuck into this little box and I'm like, but then I get handed something I would never create and I'm like, oh my God, that's so much fun.
yeah.
I love a good pre-gen.
Me too.
I gave all of you like 2-page letters for your characters, which was a big part of me just like over planning and kind of panicking and being like, I'll just write out every thought I can have. Here, there's everything.
You gave us our bios, but you also, I think you and Clint worked on putting together like a guide for like how to play our character.
Oh my God, Clint did that,
so
and it
cool.
was such a great idea because we wanted the mechanics to be cool, and it had things like, here's for instance something you can do with this ability. Like you could use it to launch over a thing, and it would be done like this. You could conceivably take 2 attacks with no negatives and stuff like that.
I loved that that template. Like I could definitely see the worth of like using that at like con games or like when you're introducing a new player to Savage Worlds, being like, hey, here's kind of the rundown of like, here are your general options that you can do so that they don't get overwhelmed by choice. Like it was really, really helpful.
Yeah, and having them, and especially since Clint is like so much more familiar with the mechanics of the characters than and like how the powers and stuff works, having that made and being able to like look through them even as a GM and be like, okay, let's just check to make sure like what people's capabilities are was hugely helpful.
Yeah, for sure. All right, SF Giants 49er says, welcome back from virtual Gen Con Indianapolis.
Thank you.
My question is, did you try out as players some hindrances and edges that you normally would not take? Which, again, we didn't really build our characters. They were sort of handed to us. But I do love that about 1-shots or 2-shots or things like this. Like, that's the time to try out some of those, like, weirder hindrances or edges that you're like, I don't know if I would ever want to do this, like, commit to this for an ongoing character. But I'll try it for a 1-shot. I'm trying to think which of my characters had
I don't think any of my hindrances this time are ones I hadn't like dealt with, but in the same vein, which feels like sort of the same stint of things because of the timing, but like in Deadlands Lawless, playing a 1-armed character for like 2 sessions was one of those like, whoa, this is like a serious hindrance. This is fun.
Yeah. I actually really liked when I was playing Brody in Dom's game. Brody had a lot of like support edges and like things like that built in, and I really have a lot of fun with that in Suede. Like there's a lot of really cool edges that can make you like a pretty great like support player, but you don't feel like you're just like, no, I buff, no, I do this. Like it feels like you're contributing in like sort of tangential or sideways ways and doing it allows for some interesting role play opportunities in combat too, which I thought was a lot of fun.
One of the really cool edges that I think, I can't remember, I'm pretty sure I used it a couple of times, Jordan, in my game, was that team player one, where if you get a card that's later, you get to support during the other person's turn.
Yeah.
And still take your turn just to distracted, which is just like such a cool thing to do as a team leader of a super squad. Because like, yeah, you would definitely help your teams, but also take a turn. Like, it's just such a cool rule. I like that edge a lot.
Yeah, that was cool. Anyone else? Any edges or hindrances that you got to play with that were new and different, stood out? It's also okay. I mean, at this point, you guys have played a fair amount of Savage Worlds, so there's not a lot new under the sun for you. I really like this next question a lot. Enter the Rectangle says, to the usual players, so I guess I can't answer this one. How did the group dynamic change when missing 25% of your usual posse? Did any of you find yourself stepping up into a role usually occupied by the player who was now GMing? hope this is clear. I think I understand what you're asking here, Enter the Rectangle, and I'm actually really interested to see if any of you did have any thoughts or experiences like that when playing these interludes.
I mean, it definitely changes the dynamic, but it's hard to tell in just a one shot, especially because we've played together for so long, and we've played together in different like organizations. Like I played with just Dom, I played with just Gaurav.
That's true, Megan, but these were 2 shots.
Good point.
You got me with your logic, with your semantics, Jordan. Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely, it's funny because I think I think more what I notice is the hole that is not being filled by JCC, because he has such a big energy and we're also used to our roles. You know, like I'm Megan, I yelled draw, I do whatever, you know, I'm here, I sit in this seat, I do
we
this
had the
thing.
hardest time getting you to yell draw in anyone else's game.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my point. I know to do it because of the way JCC leads with it. So I can kind of pick it up from what he does, but the rest of us don't do that. So it's almost just like going, wait, I have to, like, if you're the GM, you're like, I have to do that thing. JCC's not going to do it. I have to do it. So that's what it was more than anything else, of just kind of realizing I already know how much, you know, he kind of goes, okay, we're doing this thing, and then he gives us a platform to get to the next part and so on. But it's another thing to feel it in that way, especially over 8 episodes. So.
I think that there's like an alchemy to changing up the group a little bit, because it's important to remember that it's not just like, oh, we were playing without Dom, so we didn't have Dom energy. It was, we were playing without Dom, but we also have JCC on the player side, and it
Dom's
changes
still there.
the whole.
He's just running it.
Exactly, and we still have Dom's input. We still have his like energy, but the whole alchemy has changed. It's an entirely different beast, you know. So it's hard to say like, oh, I missed this from one person or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily feel like anyone stepped up or did a different role. Like, at least for me, I didn't look at it like that or feel like it was like that. To me, it just felt like, this is a different character. I'm going to do a different thing, and I purposely tried to do different things with my characters than I've done with any other characters, so that I could expand that and try out those new edges and hindrances and things that I haven't had before. So that was my goal with it. It wasn't like, you know, Gaurav's running this, and Gaurav usually takes point for, you know, doing persuasion stuff and talking and everything, so I'm going to try and do that this time, or whatever. Like, it was more like, would this character do this? Yes. Okay. But yeah, it was, I agree with JP about the alchemy thing, is that there's a little bit of a, like, figuring out where that amorphous blob kind of reconfigures itself around the new group. But I don't know. I think because we had played together for so long, that we kind of automatically fill in the gaps that we recognize, even subconsciously, are missing from the RP standpoint.
Yeah, so to kind of keep the JCC energy going, the days of my game, I went out and did things that JCC would do. So I went into the library and started moving books around. They're like, what are you doing? Please leave. I had some chips and salsa for lunch. I went to played some HeroClix, read some comic books. I tried to do something nice for Megan, but she was like, please leave. So
there's a pandemic on. Why are you in all these places?
Yeah. Worked out pretty well though.
I feel attacked. This was actually, I know I was not addressed in this question, but of all of you, I think based on what you're saying, I had the weirdest experience. It was really weird playing with you guys, because I am so used to GMing for you guys. I don't really even play that much on the channel anymore. I largely, you know, GM Wildcards. And I felt like the whole time like the weird uncle at your sleepover who's like, hey, what are you kids doing? You playing video games? You know, I used to play video games back in the day. Why don't you scooch over and I'll be player two.
He's exactly like that.
It was really weird for me doing that because like every one of my characters except for Shadow Scorpion, like I intentionally tried to build sort of like support characters, like people where I was like I don't really want to like be driving the action or like doing, I just kind of like want to be playing my character and help everyone out, but I have a really hard time not driving the action, and I just had to like, there were so many times just because, you know, I have a GM's approach to the game. I'm like, let's keep the action going, but when I'm at the table I'm like, what does everyone else want to do?
It's true, yeah.
But I'm not always very good at doing that. So like there were a couple of like getting captured by the Nazis. That was essentially just me being like, yes, we give up. And then you guys were like, no, okay. And
I guess the scene's over.
I was like, did I take too much control there? I gotta step it back. So it was a weird experience for me playing with you guys, but I had a lot of fun. This was the most playing I've done in a while, and it was cool. This next question comes from Obocop. So this is bigger than just interludes. To the players, for everyone, what player character from any interlude or Wildcards game that wasn't your PC would you want to play? And my answer is Ransom Keen. Ransom Keen was Dom's character for 2 episodes of Deadlands Lawless. And I know Dom got some really poor roles and ran into a lot of weird situations with Ransom, but that is my Deadlands character concept. If I was ever going to play Deadlands, that huckster who's like, all I do is huckstering. I don't have a weapon because I'm a huckster. I don't have money. I'm a huckster. I'm overconfident because I'm a huckster. Like that was my character concept, and that was my character concept that I gave to Dom to play. It was like, you don't have any weapons, but that's on purpose. Have fun.
I don't know. I've liked all the characters I've gotten to play on Wildcards. I really like Debbie Winger. I really wanted to.
No,
do
you
more,
can't be
did
yours.
I create her?
It can't be yours.
That was your PC.
Did I create her?
Well, it doesn't matter if you created her. It's whether or not you played that character. It's a character someone else played.
I was thinking of it. I was thinking of it as if you hadn't created it. Yeah, come back to me. I was completely going down the wrong path.
We're gonna come back to Megan.
I would play as Dom's character in my game, Dynamo, because of the ways that Dom used his powers. And as JCC knows, I love to kind of negotiate with the powers that be, the GM, with using abilities in weird ways to achieve cool results. And that's what Dom did. And as the game was going on, I was like, man, I bet you could do this or this or this. Yeah. There's a lot of cool things you could do, especially with the super system. So I think Dynamo would have been really cool. Also, I just like the Flash, and it was pretty much that.
Oh yeah, speedsters are fun.
So cool.
Yeah. I think it would have been. This is such a like wide range because there's been so many characters and stuff. But I would like to play like I think Amazing Mesmero would have been a fun character.
I could see you as that. Yeah.
Take on.
Yeah. I would play James Bogue. I think James Bogue would be fun to play.
I would love to see you play James Bogue, actually. That'd be really cool.
Now you guys have picked all of my characters.
We have the characters.
You weren't allowed to pick them anyway. Did we all pick a Dom? We've all picked a Dom
We all
character.
picked a Dom character. Which means I never played it the way you wanted it to be played.
No, that's not what that means, Dom.
Negative Nancy.
That's a negative way of looking at it. I mean, there's a few. I would. Brody is super fun. Brody was a lot of fun.
Brody would have been really cool because I gave a lot to Brody to play with, and that was definitely something that I felt was partially what I wanted to play. Rosaline would be a lot of fun, I think, especially after playing like Nikolai and having that idea of power.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, those are two solid solid choices. I think I would play.
I would like you to pick a Dom character as well. And the character I would like you to pick is the one you played in our St. Patrick's Day marathon a couple years
Oh
ago.
yeah.
He's a monster.
The mad scientist who was
He
like
was great.
he thought he was like a Hulk type person when
Yeah.
he took this potion, but he just wasn't. And you played him so well. Like one of my favorite gifs of all time is of you being like, "Don't look at me, I'm a monster, clearly."
Yeah.
So good.
Mad scientists in general, just like that, just literally mad scientists is fun.
Yeah.
They are fun. Oh, this one's for me. Philly Cheesesteak asked, JCC, what were your favorite edges from each interlude? And I mean, that's a lot. I will say the one edge, and this happened in every single interlude, I kept checking my sheet because I was like, man, do I have this? It would be clutch right now. Common bond. I always wanted to have common bond, and I was always so disappointed when I'd be like, does this character have? Nah, it doesn't have common bond. All right. It's just so helpful to be able to go like, you failed and you're out of bennies. I have a benny for you. Who played one of you?
You did have common bond.
I did that in Mysterium.
Mysterium. I was like, somebody did.
I did it for your character in Mysterium.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that
What
was
you retroactively used.
Yeah.
You were like, could it have been earlier that I like said something like this? So he was.
Oh yeah,
prepared.
I love that. That was a great way to use common bond.
I really like
It's a
that
really fun
edge,
edge.
and I like the different ways that it's been played with. That one's fun.
Mhm.
Okay, this is a really great question.
Hey, by the way,
yes.
JCC,
Yes.
you totally had common bond in my game.
Yes, I did. I did have common bond in your
I
game.
knew you had it somewhere because you gave it to me.
Yeah,
You did.
I had common bond in, I think, just that one. But I liked it. I liked it there.
Because when you said that, I was being like, I thought I gave it to him, and
I think I gave it to Brody too. I think Brody had common bond.
Maybe that's what it was.
Wow.
What the hell?
Wow, Jordan.
I had common bond. No, I wasn't saying I never had it. I was saying I always was like, oh, do I have common bond? And that's probably why, because 50% of the time I did have common bond.
No, you always had it.
I like this question a lot, and I think you guys have some interest. We'll have some interesting answers for it. Enter the Rectangle wants to know to the players, what are some quick tips for getting into character for a one-shot when you may not have designed your own character and may not have enough time to explore every facet of them in 1 or 2 sessions? So from each of you, I just want what is your number one tip for creating a character for playing a character for a one-shot? When you're in that situation where you've got a pre-gen and you didn't create it, what's your tip?
I think for me, it's really about. I think I hook into one thing. I for Screech, I hooked into the fact that she was I forget what it was specifically, but she was very pragmatic. She was very smart and pragmatic and not always the nicest. And so I just hooked into that, and then I just kind of explored through there, as opposed to often I just really do find less is more. Sometimes it doesn't work, but for the most part, for me, I don't need a lot of extra stuff. I just need the basic idea. Like, this person is a vampire hunter who is a bastard. And it's like, great, I can do shit with that, and I just that little bit of boundary can create so much more creativity sometimes than too much or too little.
Yeah. Adding on to what Megan said, it basically figuring out what archetype your character is in, and then finding a popular culture version of that and using that as a reference, which I find really helpful. And that's kind of what I did for your characters in Necessary Evil, is I found a villain hero combo that sort of blends to make your characters. You have 2 references to work off of to make a character out of that.
America's GM David Crennan always used to do that on at least Never Tell Me the Odds when he ran it on Saving Throw. He would always have an NPC as played by Tom Hardy, or this NPC as played by Charlize Theron. Which is a great way to just have okay, I have a mental image of how this PC looks, sounds, and acts just from that. And so does everyone at the table. It's it's kind of like a common language. That's a really good way to look at it.
I always try and have like 3 things that I know about a character before I like do it. The first is always like, first thing is I always want to make like one big decision about the character. That's like my thing. And even if it's something that's just like leaning into something that was already there. Like with Pterosaur, I feel like my first big decision was that he was going to have a Pterosaur voice that he used when he was being Pterosaur, and then he was going to have his regular everyday guy voice. And then I also like to ask, what does my character want? Like, what is the thing that they want most? And then also, what does my character get emotional about? And I really like trying to make those answers not as easy as like the most obvious thing, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually thinking about what does my character, very similar to JP, I think. What does my character want? The great thing about Savage Worlds is the hindrances, and they dictate a lot of how your character will come across. Like Mesmero, I knew Mesmero, and because Megan and I worked on that character, and I told her kind of what I wanted, she gave him the hindrance of arrogant. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly it. But like Nikolai, I also made arrogant, even though that wasn't a hindrance, I don't believe, on his character sheet. Because I was like, it just kind of happened. Like, it just, like, I got backstory for Nikolai that, you know, he left the Seekers? Is that who they were? And like,
The Speakers.
You know, the Speakers, right. And like he, you know, I figured, oh, okay, he's probably developed an attitude about these people not using their powers, and he's going to flaunt using these powers. So he's going to have some chip on his shoulder about using the powers. And it's sort of using the system to kind of help drive how that character is going to roll. So I do that, but also the rolls, like there's 2 rolls here, but the actual rolling of dice, like Ransom, I got Ransom immediately. I completely understood who Ransom was, and then the rolls never let Ransom be Ransom.
Yep.
And so it was like, well, I can, you know, I can lay into that and be Ransom is just, he's no good at being a huckster,
or he's just having one really bad night.
Yeah, exactly. Just it's just things, and JCC, you're good at this, but I think everyone was good at adjusting the characters in their interludes for when things failed like that, when there were critical failures and stuff, of going, oh, you know, this is probably why this happened. Like, either, you know, you're overrun by the rats, or whatever it was. It was like, you know, with Ransom, is like, there's so much shit going on right now, you just can't concentrate, and so you're losing that identity, or that power, or whatever it was. And I think that's a great, I think really good role-playing systems allow you to adapt characters for successes and failures. Well, I think we build characters a lot of times hoping for the successes, and we don't think about what happens if that character fails. And for me, I try to put a point on what it's going to look like when I don't do what I expect I should be able to do.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. You know, one thing I will add to this, just in general though, is sometimes you end up going a different direction than what's on your character sheet, and really the most important thing is just making a choice. That comes back to performance. That's what we learned. You just make a choice and do it, and as long as you're not being like a jerk and you all are having fun, it's probably going to work great.
Yeah, I would say for me, when I'm playing a pre-gen character, I just try and make one strong choice, and it's typically how they talk, and not necessarily like even doing a voice, but like, do they talk fast, or they talk slow, or are they careful, are they free with information? Are they trying to sound like Batman because they think it's funny and they think that they're tricking all of their friends, even though their friends all know that they're really Silver Scorpion, you know, whatever.
Shadow Scorpion.
Also, I mean, this has kind of been mentioned, like Dom mentioned this, but in Savage Worlds, like hindrances are like a cheat code for like role playing.
Yep.
Like just pick your hindrances and be like, just play that, and like you have a cool character.
Edges too, like that whole system. If you look at it like and just go like, what kind of person is these things? That's typically like you're like, oh, I know a person like that or a character like that.
Yeah.
We're almost there, guys. We're getting to the end of these questions. Evil Dice Monkey asks, when I play online, I record my games so I can watch or listen back later to see how I can improve. Do any of you do that? And if yes, do you do it as a player, a GM, or both?
I record every game.
Whether we like it or not.
Dom's obsessive like that.
I rarely go back and watch, though.
Yeah. Whenever I very first started streaming as a player, we would go back and be like, ooh, you know, because it was so new and novel in a sense. It's like, what did chat think of this thing? And then after a while, there's so much content that I'm like, oh, it's out to the ether as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, there are some times when I'm like, oh, I feel like that was a really cool move, or I finally said something really cool. I wonder what chat said when I did that, and I'll walk in and chat's like talking about puppies or something, and I'm just like, cool, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't like seeing myself talk, so no.
I like seeing you talk.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
I do periodically go back and like watch our videos at like double speed and just try and like make note of like where people were most engaged. Because you know, it's interesting to see like what's getting the audience's attention and like, you know, try and notice like when the things I say are coming over well, when they're like coming over as dull, what jokes are not hitting and stuff like that. You can't do it every show because we just have so many, but I do feel like I get a lot of like good stuff from like seeing how people have reacted.
I'll say as a GM, I don't really. Typically, when I'm GMing, if I'm doing something at the table and it's not going well or it's screwing up, like I know, and I can tell, and I'm like, oh boy. And then if something goes really well, like the highest highs and the lowest lows, super easy for me to identify when I come away from the game. Not saying I always think about them right, you know. Most GMs, I feel like, have a tendency to be way harder on themselves than their players are and be like, oh, I totally screwed that up and everyone saw how stupid I was and that I didn't know what was happening. And everyone's like, I was not paying attention to that in that scene. I was trying to figure out how to survive that encounter. But I'd say if it's useful for you, go for it. But sometimes I feel like that can be, it can be like a way to kind of get stuck in your own anxiety or in your own like spiral of like, see, I thought I did that poorly and there I am doing it poorly, just as I thought.
Also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I try and view each game session afterwards. It's like, well, that just happened. That happened. That is just part of my timeline now. That's in my past. I'll pick and choose what I want to take from that and what I want to leave behind. And I'll just move on to the next game.
It's also really easy to find whatever you're looking for. So if you're like, oh, I think I screwed that up, you go back, those are the patterns you're going to look for. And like, oh man, it's for me, I really like to approach it from the place of going, okay, my art has gone out there. It is what it is. It's never going, it's not, you know, maybe sometimes I'll get close to perfect and maybe sometimes it'll be shit. But that's part of the risk and vulnerability of art and putting it out there in front of people, and it is hard. But the more I look in, like try to like figure it all out and see what everybody else thinks, the more you kind of, for me, I kind of like spiral down into like anxiety craziness.
And don't misunderstand everyone out there, whether you're playing a home game, whether you're streaming it or not, what you are doing as a GM or as a player is art. In many ways, you are making art when you sit down at the game table and play and create this collaborative story together with your friends. You are all artists when you're playing the game, so think of it like that. All right, this one's a bit involved, and we are trying to get out of here at a reasonable time tonight, so keep your answers to this one concise and brief if you can, but it is interesting. Owen Lean asks, in general, would you say you prefer to play in worlds specifically designed for the RPG, such as in Necessary Evil, or in an RPG designed for a pre-made world from fiction, such as Indiana Jones? Do you feel there are any advantages or disadvantages of either?
Yeah, both. I mean, it could go
Yes.
either way.
It's a yes. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes.
Oh, and also did
Yeah,
not
the
ask
answer
any
is
follow-up
yes.
questions.
Great.
So yes.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
it's it for me. A pre-made setting stresses me. It's just super stressful. I much prefer, and even touching something like Indiana Jones can be stressful to me because there is already such a large breadth of stuff. And sure, you can be like, well, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to take what I want. But it's hard to do that and to have people go, well, but what about this Indiana Jones thing? It can be hard. So for me, Mysterium was a perfect setting because there's not much of a world there. I can take the tone, the energy of it and go, okay, I'm going to take it this direction. And it still is a touchstone, but it doesn't contain me any more than I want to be contained. I like to go, oh, I'll take this piece of history and let that be a container. So for me, it's way easier to do it this way. Having said that, you do kind of have to like make it all whole cloth each time, which can also be taxing. So I think it just depends on the person.
Sure.
Yeah. I feel like even though I did one where like I made the game around like the Castlevania setting and stuff instead of picking like, oh, this is an RPG and I build a thing in that. I think I generally like the like more generalized RPG like settings that were made for a system a little bit better, just because sometimes, like Megan said, it can feel a little like limiting. Like when I was making Savage Castlevania, I was really worried at some points because I was like, is this not Castlevania enough? Like, am I not using enough of this world? Like, because even though it gives you things to draw from, it can also feel sort of restraining because you're like worried that you're not meeting the spirit of the world, or you are trampling on some established part of the canon or something like that. So I think there's a line in between.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of, I prefer a world where there are like some general guidelines, and then I don't have to play in any of the established parts of that world. I can be like, oh, okay, so these are things that are true of the world, but we're over here in this corner of the world where we're only just sort of like loosely touched by that kind of stuff. I don't like feeling bogged down in trying to make sure that I'm like keeping up with continuity properly, or that I'm not misrepresenting the way a character plays. I think that's one of the reasons why none of us, jumped on the chance to play Indiana Jones, because Indiana Jones is just like an iconic character.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Not that the other ones aren't, but like no one's like, oh my God, that is not Marcus Brody. Like no one cares. No one's gonna be like, Short Round, canonically doesn't believe that. They just don't know as much about those characters, so there's a bit more freedom, and you feel less constrained, or at least I do, playing stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on that note? Yeah.
No, I think we covered it all.
Okay.
I wasn't
We
going to
nailed
say
it.
anything.
Do you want to say something?
No, I wasn't going to say anything,
But it sounded like you were.
but I wasn't.
Oh my
Okay.
God, move on.
Roth hates RPGs. That's the answer there.
Evil Dice Monkey wants to know, how are you finding costuming in the now times? Have you been ordering stuff online or scavenging your places of residence for stuff? The second one, for all these
All of those
interludes,
things.
did anyone order any costume piece for your interlude characters?
Yes.
JP did.
No.
I ordered a Hulk muscle T-shirt for
Pterosaur.
but that's it. I already had the hat. I just had a green hat from high school that was like a dinosaur hat. I
That he
wore
keeps
that.
next to his desk at all times in case he
There
wants
it
to put
is.
it on.
Just in case.
Like, what if, right?
Yeah, what if?
Came in handy right now, so don't
So
laugh.
It's so good though. Keep it
You'd
on.
be amazed by the things that you can do with just a couple different pieces of clothing or accessories that you don't
Well,
typically wear together, that
especially
are
when
in your
you're
house.
Only costuming really this which can be harder sometimes, but also easier because you're not trying to costume your entire body.
Yeah. Come on, nobody wore pants during these interludes, right?
I
Like,
picked
come on.
Sala.
Why would
I
you-
picked Sala and Indiana Jones because I Googled his picture, and the first picture he had a fez on, and I knew I had a fez in my house.
And see, Megan and I both used to do a job for years where we dressed up as a wide variety of characters for birthday parties, and we got rid of most of those costumes. But we do still, I got rid of most of my costumes, but we still have a lot of elements from some of those costumes around, and that makes it way easy to like mix and match. Like if you just have a plastic tub of like a couple of things from Halloween's past, you essentially have an endless amount of characters you can play.
You would be surprised what you can just find around the a house or apartment and be like, oh, I could put this here and that'll look like this, and just get creative.
Yeah. But so to answer your question, yes, we looked between the couch cushions and underneath all of the tables and beds, and we found costumes there. They're everywhere. Your apartment or home is probably infested. Final pre-submitted question from Philly Cheesesteak. Would you do this again? It was super cool.
Maybe.
Yeah,
yeah, why not?
I would.
I mean, I would do it again. I'm not saying it will happen, but I'll do it again.
I do have to say, my like normal stress level related to Wildcards is like here, and then my stress level of my like times I was GMing was like here. But it's only a couple sessions, so and second week was easier than the first week, so
Yeah, it does get easier, yeah.
Philly Cheesesteak, I hope the level of enthusiasm that all of the cast members spoke with there answers your question. Yes, they would, and they are super psyched about it.
Well, like we said, I think it's the difference between sitting in the Wildcards GM seat and just like doing I'm going to do a couple of episodes. Those, my thing. Those are two very different things. So I think that's some of the reaction you're seeing.
Yeah, honestly, I find it easier to do a 10 episode thing than a 2 episode thing, because with a 2 episode thing, you literally got to cram an entire arc into 2 episodes. With 10, you could string all that stuff out and like flesh things out, have character moments, and it's just much harder to do it with 2. It's obviously possible, as we did, but it just makes it very tough to condense and crunch all that.
So you heard it here first. The next time we do Wildcards interludes, it will be 40 episodes long. Everybody will get their own 10 episode arc.
Okay.
That's when that $1 million fan of TTRPGs comes in.
I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm so sorry.
It will take us a full year.
Once Kyle wins the lottery and gifts us with a fair amount of their winnings, then we will
That
do
would
the
be
interludes again.
I super appreciate it, Kyle.
This was fun. I don't know. Doing a full season of it is a lot to ask of everybody, but I think it might be fun. Like if anyone ever was like, I have a really good idea for a one shot that I want to do at some point. Like, I mean, yeah, I would happily play in any one of their games again. I had a great time. I don't know about the rest. Maybe they were stressed. I have no idea. This was the least stressed I've been on Friday nights for like forever. So
well, that's good to know. I'm glad that was...
I would do it again. So that, yes.
Oh, I was just going to say, can we do toasts real quick?
Yeah, let's do some toasts.
I thirsty.
Great.
Let's
I
go.
finished all my beer, but
Well, I finished my water, but I'm going to make the motion anyway. Neva and Omar, here's to the Wildcards for helping us survive this version of the timeline. Thank you.
Yay!
Yeah, thank you. Cheers to that. Thank you very much. It
Young
helps us too.
Gandaldorf. As another Kyle, you should all know, I love the toast, I love you all, and as I usually say, you're all awesome and keep up the great work. Thank you very much. I think all Kyles are good.
Kyles. Cheers.
Vampire 54. If we had $1 million, we'd all be all-stars and get our game on and play. Love you, Garav.
There it was. Wasn't in the pre-submitted questions. It was there. Cheers.
Cheers. There's a little bit of bare naked ladies in there too.
Young Gandaldorf. 2 great GMing from the cast and a hopefully refreshing break for JCC. Can't wait for what's next. Cheers.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Vampire 54. And now for the surprise end of the stream announcement. 50 Fathoms is totes the... Yeah, you got buried.
Total Barrett.
Cheers.
Total
Cheers.
I had a little bit left in there.
Is that the toasts?
Those are it. That's it.
Should we do some lightning round questions from chat? If anybody in chat has any questions that you want for any of the GMs of the Interludes, or for me, or for any of the players, or about Savage Worlds, or about Wildcards, or about
BSB Care asks
intensely
Gaurav
private
and
personal
JP.
lives.
Gaurav and JP from BSB Care. How did you guys decide to assign each character to each player? Why did the players get the specific character?
Good question.
Mine's really easy. So think about what these characters are, and then think about the people at my table, and they kind of fill themselves in. Like, it's really easy.
So in mine, I put a lot of thought into the characters. I really wanted, I mean, there had to be a Belmont, and my initial thought, like when I initially made it, I was like, oh, well, you know, a Belmont will be a guy because that's what a Belmont is in most of those games. And I was like, nah, let's not do that. I'll let Meghan be the Belmont. And I thought that Gaurav and Dom usually have like a good like rapport.
As the non-cannibals, yeah.
So I kind of thought
Right.
having like them be
Because we don't want to eat each other.
Yeah, but having them be the caster demon pair would be kind of fun. And JCC, I thought it would be interesting to, and I guess you had already played Brody and stuff, but I don't know. I thought that you could bring like a lot of character to like a support character who wasn't exactly a support character, but who was like a little more like plot hooky than some of the other characters. So that was kind of my thinking on all those.
And for my part, I finally got to play a character that delivered some quests for the PCs, which I just have never been able to play before at the Wildcards table.
Okay, we have a lot of questions that just popped in, so this is going to be super lightning round.
Lightning round.
Current favorite video game?
I'm playing Terraria.
Terraria is great.
We're all
Escape from
playing
Tarkov also.
Terraria.
Yeah.
Legend of Grimrock.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Arena of Valor.
Sudoku.
Is good. I do like
Favorite Savage system?
Savage setting.
Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good one.
My favorite Savage system is Savage Worlds.
Adventure Edition.
Yeah.
Sway.
I really like the potential of Necessary Evil. I don't know. It's really hard for me to pick a favorite, but that one has a
Yeah.
lot of really fun stuff to mine.
Easy
Sure.
pick for me. For
Let's.
sure.
Yeah. JP,
Horror.
what was the
Continue.
little girl's power?
What?
Oh,
Not
sorry,
Gaurav.
you don't know. That's Gaurav. Sorry.
Oh, the little girl's power. So
Yeah.
she was a teleporter. So basically, her dad and her go out into scouting missions, and if they get into trouble, she can teleport them out. So if
Nice.
anything
Cool.
happened, that was what she was going to try to attempt to do.
Wow.
Now I'm curious what JP thought her power was.
Yeah.
JP, what was the little girl's power?
I thought she had a mind control thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I thought she
you
was
were
gonna
wrong.
laser us with
You're
eyes.
wrong. She was a
I like
teleporter.
JP's answer.
She had the glowing eyes, so I was like,
I like JP's answer.
How did Dom create such a strong Indiana Jones flavor in his game? I love Indiana Jones.
He knows a lot about
Dom
it.
knows the full expanded universe of
Dom.
Indiana Jones.
Current favorite TV or streaming show?
Oh man.
Hometown HGTV.
I've watched so much TV
I don't know.
since this pandemic started.
I'm rewatching the OC, and it stands up. It's fucking fantastic. I love it.
I'm not
Guys,
sure.
Rick and Morty is a really good show. Just like on a lot of levels. I mean, I know that the
I
fandom
agree,
gets
though.
the fandom
Right.
can be really
It's so
toxic.
smart.
Don't need to
It's-
explain. Don't need to explain. Just say it. Okay.
Like- Lightning
Doom
round, you're
Patrol's
right.
been fun.
Doom
I
Patrol,
like
yeah.
Outlander. I don't know
Um,
why, but I do.
Midnight Gospel was like
That was
is
really
Oh, yeah.
recently one of the shows that has most been like for me. So I really
That was-
like Midnight Gospel.
That was cool.
Mhm.
Dom, what would happen if Megan left with Excalibur? She would have died.
Oh no!
Just
Yeah,
like
you-
that
I
one
would've
guy at
died.
the end of that
Not
Indiana
married.
Jones
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly what would have happened. You
I
would have
can
sunk.
almost reach it.
Yeah, you would have sunk beneath the waves and been lost forever. How did you decide the order of interludes?
Dom went, I already have an Indiana Jones con game, so I have no problem going first. And it all just sort of spiraled out from
I
there.
remember saying I didn't want to be first, and they're like, "Good, you're second." I'm like, "Okay."
And
First.
yeah, and third is kind of what I wanted because I didn't want to. I wanted a little more time, but I also didn't want to like be the capstone on the whole thing. So I was like, third, please, yes.
And I knew I was running Mysterium, and I was like, that'll be, everyone will kind of think maybe that, but we'll just leave it to the end. And then there you go.
Favorite myth from anywhere in the world?
Orpheus.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I can't even think of any myths right now.
No, I know. Guys, no. Favorite myth? Come on.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about that later. We can talk myths for a long
Can't
time.
pick a favorite myth.
Yeah, I have a
Blue
lot
Moon
that I
FC.
really like, but
Did the brain name itself?
yes.
Okay. If the four supervillains fought each other, who would win?
Screech.
Ooh,
Probably Screech.
The good guys would win.
Oh,
would
wait.
win.
So
I don't
for
know.
Scorpion.
I don't know. I was pretty hard to hit. I had like a
Yeah.
lot of like, and
I just scream at all you guys, though.
I don't know,
a really
actually.
good question.
that would be fun. That would be fun. Let's all just do a pit match.
We might have to play that
Mhm.
out. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
just
think it'd be Dynamo, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think it would be Dynamo as well.
He's fast, yeah.
JP, did you ever consider another character for Mysterium?
It was easiest to go back to being Horace. I would consider another character. I like Horace. Horace Duncombe is like
why would you
kind of a
consider
fun
another
character.
character?
just to like mix things up. But I'm like, I like Horace. I like him and St. George. I think they're fun.
The toy
You
poodle.
like pompous British man who has psychic powers and won't admit it, and yeah.
Are there any issues with running a non-RPG IP as a monetized Twitch, like Indiana Jones versus running Savage Worlds settings?
I mean, it's definitely trickier at times. I think if we were to do like an ongoing game like that might be a bit
But
harder. But
Even that, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think it's kind of like, I don't know. There's a lot of legality in that, but also we're where we are, and I don't think that, you know, in the Indiana Jones people are going to be like, stop doing your game, whatever this is.
I don't think
you-
anyone's going to be like, these guys clearly have money for me to sue them for. Like,
Well, yeah, the biggest question there, to keep this super brief, because this is certainly an involved question, but to keep this super brief, will anyone mistake us running an Indiana Jones hack of Savage Worlds as Lucasfilm legitimately giving us money to do Savage Worlds, or confuse us as an actual, like a sequel to Indiana Jones, or confuse us as an Indiana Jones movie? No,
yes to
won't.
all. Oh,
So,
no is what I meant.
so there's little ground legally that they could come in and go, hey, people assume that this is Indiana Jones, and it's not. I don't think we're running into that.
What
But
do you have to say for yourself, saving throw?
yeah, but like JCC said, I don't think we're not in the realm of things. We don't have the audience necessarily numbers that people are going to start going like, hey, wait a minute, you owe us everything you made off that.
George
So
Lucas is like, stop doing Indiana Jones. It's better than the new movie. Please stop.
Yeah.
You're ruining this for me.
Let's see. Everyone's asking if we announced anything.
Not yet.
We won't ask that question because it's an intensely personal question.
I'm coming back from the East Coast at some point.
Okay.
I just
Was that
don't
the
know
question?
when. That's the question.
Do you regularly watch or listen to other Savage Worlds actual play shows or podcasts? Yeah, I mean, I don't regularly watch any or listen to any actual play podcasts, but I do. Young and Holt and Sounds Like Crows are two of the ones that I generally, whenever I do listen to something and want to hear some good stuff, those are the two that I usually pick up.
I don't do anything regularly. I am a mercurial enigma that floats through life on the breeze of my whims.
very
So
true.
I refuse to answer.
I listen to Adventure Zone, but it's not very good right now.
Wah, wah.
I've worked on Young and Holt, but I'm not great at listening to like anything that's like a podcast. Actually, like I listen to audiobooks, and that's pretty much like audiobooks and music, and that's pretty much it.
I'm similar. I don't. Yeah. But I go through phases. This is how I work. I'll be like, I'm all this thing right now, and I'll be that thing for like 6 months, and I'm like, no, I'm done with this thing. I don't ever want to look at it again. I don't know why, but it is what I tend to do. So.
What's my favorite part of producing the show? I
The
don't-
babes.
Yeah, and the money. Come on.
Kirby's.
What books do you find yourself rereading? Goodnight Moon.
Rereading.
I don't
mean-
read books more than once
I
I don't-
reread books all the
Raceling.
time.
ever.
Fire.
Yeah.
American Gods
probably
is a
The
regular.
Shining.
Harry Potter?
I reread the
Potter.
Discworld books every couple years.
Hunger Games.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, Gracing Fire, Bitter Blue. Yeah.
Catch 22. I've just started rereading The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, which, by the way, if anyone hasn't read, is
It's amazing.
phenomenal.
It's an
really-
amazing book.
Yeah.
I would read Lock and Key again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. We've got a lot to get through here.
Oh, we don't have to answer all of them.
Okay. Well, Megan,
Pick-
really quick, would you do a
pick the
modern day
ones.
Scooby Gang Buffy Squad Mysterium game?
Maybe. Modern, I really don't like modern. I really, really don't like modern because modern kind of falls into that category of there's just so many things. We live in the modern day. We know all of the modern day things. You're trying to keep so many things in mind. It's stressful. I much prefer period settings.
Modern day games
So-
are kind of like that established property sort of trap.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you can't do that in modern day. And it's like, ah, damn, they found me out.
Right.
Okay.
So, however, doing Buffy, maybe something like that would be fun.
Okay, just one word answer for this one. Do you all have a background in improv?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Oh, there it
but-
is. Booma Man Redux fell asleep. Did the next season get announced?
No.
You missed it.
Yes, we
Yeah,
are having a next season.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to skip through some of these questions just so that we get through. How long does it take to write, edit, and produce the Savage 60 Seconds shorts? All of them take 1 minute to write, 1 minute to edit, and 1 minute to produce.
Yes. 3
That's-
minutes
it's the-
per
it's-
Savage 60 seconds.
It's the easiest
they're
thing.
very quick.
How is Nikolai produced? How it sounds.
No, produced.
produced from your mouth.
To be clear,
yeah.
though, it's Nikolai.
Is the book Lock and Key better than the series? Yes.
Yes.
I'm responding to that.
I know a lot of people love the series, but like far and away, it's better.
Yeah, the
made me sad.
series is
Yes.
good. There's nothing wrong with the series, but the book is way better. The series is also very good. It is just not like the book. Okay. That's all the questions.
All right, great. So that is all the questions. Thank you guys very much for joining us for our Interludes chat back. Again, I want to give a big hand to all of our Interludes GMs. Thank you all so much for taking your time at the head of the table and for running us all through 2 sessions of fun and adventure. I very much appreciate all of you taking the time and putting in the energy to doing this. Thank you for letting me be a player at your table, and thank you for sharing your stories and your games with all of these wonderful people in chat who, just based on the response to this, I think we're really excited to see what you guys did, and it was a lot of fun. I know that we were lukewarm about it, but maybe we do it in the future. Who knows? I think that's it for us tonight. So thank you all
right,
for joining
thanks.
us, and yeah.
Have a great night.
All right.
All
Have
right.
a great night,
Finger
everybody.
guns. I
Finger
don't know.
guns.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
We'll see you next
Bye.
time.
Didn't forget anything.
Bye.
Bye.
Wait, no. We've forgotten something.
We did forget something.
What are we talking about?
Thank you to our mods. Thank you to our
Yes.
mods
There
we
for
go.
keeping
Thank you,
the
mods.
chat and everything great.
Thank you.
You guys are the real heroes behind the scenes, so thank you very much for all you do. You mean a lot to us. All right.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Don't forget the marathon tomorrow, ALZ.
Yes.
Show up.
Right.
Yes.
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Pacific
Pacific
time,
time.
1 p.m. Eastern time.
Me and JP will be there.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah. Was there another thing?
I feel like
No, I
we're
think we're
done.
No?
Yeah, I
I feel
think
like we
that's
did
I
it.
think that's pretty much it. Yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Damn, it is hot.
It is hot.
It is hot.
That's what we
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
once the camera turns off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Should I just roll the thing or
yeah.
how-
You know what? Let's
Or should
roll that clip.
should we say
Okay.
something? Just roll the
Roll the
clip.
clip.
Just bye.
Yeah, we'll
Don't
just say
say
bye.
Let's roll the clip. Let's
Good
We'll
night,
just say
everybody.
bye and roll the clip.
Bye and
We're
roll
not
the clip.
coming and we're not coming back. I just
We're
want
not
to be
coming
sure
back.
because I don't 100% know. But okay.
Ever.
We're
Here
not
we
coming
go.
back.
The last you'll ever see.
I'm rolling the clip.